Chapter 44. Gu Mingzhong chatted with Lin Jin for a long time. He told Lin Jin that he would be staying in Maple City for a while longer before he left. He had kept a low profile during his visit, so no one recognized him except for Lu Yunhe. However, the latter obviously wouldn't spread the news, as he was now in awe of Lin Jin. After all, he was counting on Lin Jin to appraise his pet beast. Perhaps because Lin Jin was in a good mood, and because of his relationship with Lu Xiaoyan, he had Lu Yunhe bring his pet beast here. That lion named Lu Ba was indeed ferocious. It was also a rare beast at rank 2 with decent potential. Lin Jin reached out to touch it. Everything was within his grasp. We're all on the same side, so I won't charge you any money. Ask whatever you want. Lin Jin was in a good mood. Before Gu Mingzhong left, he had painted a new painting for him. How could he not be in a good mood now that he had a priceless painting in his hands? Lu Yunhe quickly asked, "Is there an evolution method?" There was a world of difference between a rank 2 and a rank 3 pet beast. As a pet beast cultivator, Lu Yunhe had always dreamed of upgrading his pet beast to rank 3. By then, with his blood contract cultivation, the strength he obtained from his pet beast alone would be enough for him to fight a rank 2 pet beast without relying on his pet beast. This was only one of the benefits. The biggest one was that his status in the Friar Association would be elevated. The Friar Association was filled with geniuses, and the competition was fierce. Cultivation resources and status were all things that had to be fought for. Lu Yunhe was under a lot of pressure. If he had a rank 3 pet beast, none of this would be a problem, because even his mentor's pet beast was only rank 3. Upon hearing Lu Yunhe's direct question, Lu Xiaoyan quickly said, "Brother, it's not that easy to promote a rank 2 to rank 3 pet beast. You can count the number of rank 3 pet beasts in Maple City on your fingers. This isn't an easy task. Appraiser Lin might not." "Yes," Lin Jin suddenly said. At this, Lu Xiaoyan fell silent. Had it been before, she would never have believed it. As an apprentice beast appraiser herself, she knew how difficult it was to promote a pet beast. Most pet beasts would never be able to evolve in their lifetime. Only a few of them could achieve rank 2 at most. As for rank 3, most people didn't even dare to think about it. It wasn't that they couldn't afford it, but there was no other way. If you want to go up the mountain, but there is no path, how will you go up? By the same logic, at least according to Lu Xiaoyan's knowledge, it was impossible for Lu Ba to advance to the 3rd level, at least for now. But if Appraiser Lin said there was, then things would be different, because there might really be such a thing. At this thought, Lu Xiaoyan became excited. Firstly, she was happy for her brother. Secondly, she wanted to carefully observe how Appraiser Lin helped this pet beast evolve, which was supposed to be impossible for the next 10 years. Even if it was just a suggestion, it was enough for her to learn some skills and enjoy endless benefits. "Appraiser Lin, do you really have a way?" Happiness came so suddenly that Lu Yunhe found it surreal. Without wasting any time, Lin Jin retrieved a brush and paper, dipped it in ink, and started writing. There are some things that couldn't be explained clearly just by talking. It was better to write it down and see it clearly. In the Museum of Deadly Beasts, there were several evolution methods for Lu Yunhe's pet beast. Among them, there was the perfect evolution method that Xiaohua chose. However, because Lu Yunhe's pet beast was a rare beast that was already rank 2, choosing the perfect evolution method was too difficult. Forget about everything else. Just the wind crystal alone was impossible to obtain, not to mention the fact that he needed to refine a pill like the 9-Hell Wind Stabilizing Pill. Lin Jin shook his head as he read the list of ingredients. Forget the fact that it was impossible to obtain them in Maple City. Even if he did, Lu Yunhe wouldn't be able to afford them even if he sold it. Halfway through his writing, Lin Jin suddenly remembered something and looked up at Zhao Ying and Lu Xiaoyan. The two girls leaned over to study Lin Jin's writing so closely that their heads almost collided with his. When he suddenly looked up, they were startled and quickly shrunk back. Zhao Ying blushed while Lu Xiaoyan stuck her tongue out mischievously. "I forgot that you two are studying under me, and I haven't officially taught you anything yet. Why don't I give you a lesson today?" Lin Jin was a little embarrassed. Strictly speaking, his beast appraising skills and basic knowledge weren't too different from the two girls. If he were to start from the basics, there wouldn't be much to talk about, and he wouldn't be able to do so either. The moment he opened his mouth, the cat would be out of the bag. However, if he were to follow the museum's content and understand it, things would be different. Lin Jin believed that Zhao Ying and Lu Xiaoyan would be able to learn something. Upon hearing this, Zhao Ying and Lu Xiaoyan perked up and their eyes lit up with excitement. It was finally here. Appraiser Lin was finally going to give them a lesson during a beast appraisal. This was a rare opportunity. Over the past 2 days, the two girls had seen Lin Jin appraise beasts, but they couldn't understand what he was doing. In fact, according to the rules of beast appraisal, Appraiser Lin's methods were simply unimaginable. He didn't seem to need any auxiliary tools or spells to appraise beasts. It could only be said that Appraiser Lin's realm was too high. The two girls even went as far as to look into Appraiser Lin's beast appraisal method, and they really did find one. Legend has it that there was once a beast observation and pet evaluation method that didn't require any other tools to appraise beasts. However, this method was extremely difficult as it was extremely demanding on the beast appraiser's knowledge, experience, and judgment. Hence, only a handful of people knew how to do it. The two girls were certain that Appraiser Lin had mastered this beast observation appraisal method. Lin Jian had no idea what they were thinking. Since he wanted to give a lesson, he didn't continue writing his evaluation report. Instead, he pointed at Lu Ba and said, "You two can appraise first. Use the methods you're good at and tell me the results." The two girls took a deep breath and began their appraisal. Zhao Ying had a steady personality, and her methods were extremely traditional. She used various beast talismans to test the pet beast's attributes, deduced its bloodline, performed hand seals, and used her own spirit energy to examine the pet beast's condition. Everything was done in an orderly manner. It was obvious that Zhao Ying's basic skills were solid. Lu Xiaoyan was different. Her main method of appraising beasts was to awaken her spiritual eye. Spiritual eye allowed her to observe down to the smallest detail. She could observe a pet beast's fur, pupils, and condition. She could even see through the pet beast's internal organs and bones. Of course, this required a solid foundation of knowledge. Otherwise, even if she could see through it, she wouldn't be able to form a conclusion. Having his blood drawn and fur plucked, Lu Ba looked aggrieved as he turned to Lu Yunha. The latter could only try to persuade him. "Lu Ba, this is all for your own good. If you want to evolve, you'll have to endure some hardships. How can you see the rainbow if you don't go through hardships?" The two girls shared their conclusions with Lin Jin. They were able to appraise some basic information, but they couldn't explain any deeper details like the evolution method. Lin Jin smiled and said to Zhao Ying, "I know your basic knowledge is solid. Be more daring. Even if it's just some speculations, that's fine too." Seemingly encouraged, Zhao Ying said, "Appraiser Lin, if I'm not mistaken, Lu Ba's bloodline should be a Gale lion with a wind attribute. He's currently rank 2 and has a good physique. If he wants to evolve, he'll need to strengthen his bones, internal organs, and blood. At the same time, he'll need to constantly feed him spirit stones to expand his acupoints. With time, he might be able to evolve." At this, Zhao Ying paused, feeling a little nervous. Lin Jin nodded. "This is the standard method. Lu Xiaoyan, go on." On the other side, Lu Xiaoyan immediately raised her eyebrows and said, "The result of my appraisal is that her basic attributes are the same as Ying Ying's. However, I feel that we should be bolder in terms of the advancement method. Not only should we increase the amount of spirit stones consumed, but we also need to use the spirit needle acupuncture technique and use external force. This way, we can at least cut the advancement time by half." Chapter 45. Based on the standards of apprentices, Zhao Ying and Lu Xiaoyan were considered top-notch. Frankly speaking, Lin Jin couldn't comment much on these basic operations. He could only use the museum's description of the evolution method to deduce the theory. Lin Jin shook his head. "It's still too conservative. As beast appraisers, we can't just follow the rules. Comparatively speaking, Xiaoyan's method is better. After all, it can shorten the evolution time, but it's still not bold enough." Lu Xiaoyun was unconvinced. Appraiser Lin, what do you think is bold then? Lin Jin recalled a theory he learned in school, and it was perfect for him to apply it here. He said, beast appraising is like marching to war. Think about it. Halfway through a journey, the army runs into a steep mountain with no way up. Or perhaps a raging river cuts off the road, making it difficult to cross. What should one do in such a situation? Do one have to take a detour, or even return the way they came? This theory was clearly novel and practical. Both Zhao Ying and Lu Xiaoyan were fascinated by it. What else can one do? Taking a detour is also a method, Zhao Ying answered honestly. Zhao Ying said honestly. Lu Xiaoyan also nodded. It seemed that in their minds, this was the only way. Lin Jin shook his head. Then, he tilted his head up slightly, his gaze deep as he gazed into the distance. After getting into position, he said in a deep voice, beast appraising is like marching to war. In such a situation, one has to open a path for every mountain and build a bridge for every river. Open a path for every mountain and build a bridge for every river. The two women's eyes lit up. They were stunned by this sentence. How bold and confident did he have to be to say something like this? Moreover, one could sense an indomitable stubbornness and courage from his words. Lin Jin was still full of knowledge. He slammed the table and stood up, saying, if the heavens don't let you, will you just wait for death? In life, one must do difficult things and perform heroic deeds. Only then will one's life not be in vain. The same goes for pet beasts' evolution methods. You mustn't be restricted. If there's no path, you won't dare to take it. If there's no path, you'll only think about retreating. If that's the case, how can a pet beast evolve? I get it. Lu Xiaoyan's face was flushed with excitement. She turned to Lu Ba. The latter shuddered in fear and lowered his head to hide behind Lu Yunhe. It was a pity that his body was so large that half of his but was exposed. Tell me, Lin Jin encouraged. In my opinion, we should feed Lu Ba some medicine that can open up his acupoints and gather spiritual energy. Furthermore, we should increase the dosage. Apart from that, he needs to fight continuously. Not only will he train his muscles and bones, but he will also be able to break through his potential. In this way, he can forcefully increase his strength. In less than a year, he will definitely show signs of leveling up, Lu Xiaoyan said confidently. Lu Ba was on the verge of tears again. Lin Jin suddenly spoke up to correct her. That's the right idea, but the method isn't thought through. Every medicine has its side effects. By increasing the dosage, even if the pet beast evolves in the future, its lifespan will be shortened, and its potential will be affected. Also, through the influence of the blood contract, the pet beast might even bite back at its owner. Lu Yunhe heaved a sigh of relief. Lu Xiaoyan stuck out her tongue and said with some dissatisfaction, it's already not easy for me to think of this method in such a short time. At most, I'll think about it again. On the other side, Zhao Ying had been in deep thought. She was even quieter than the others. At this moment, she spoke up, yes, the pills must be taken, but they must be tailored to the symptoms. Other than that, we can use elemental power to activate Lu Ba's potential. It would be best if we can activate his bloodline. It should be effective. Lin Jin nodded and praised her. On this point, Zhao Ying was indeed more composed. So how do we choose the pills? How do we refine them? How do we use elemental power to activate the pet beast's bloodline? Lin Jin continued asking questions. While it sounded like he was asking, he was actually guiding them. This involved a relatively profound theory, and it also required extremely strong practical experience to make a judgment and choice. The two women frowned and pondered carefully. Lin Jin wasn't in a hurry. Instead, he waited patiently. This feeling of teaching others was quite satisfying. If both girls could improve, he would feel a great sense of satisfaction and accomplishment. Without interrupting their contemplation, Lin Jin went to the consultation hall in front and stretched his limbs. Lu Yunhe guessed that he had other matters to attend to, so he couldn't stay here forever. Hence, he bade farewell to Lin Jin and left with Lu Ba. As they left, Lu Ba was in a hurry. As if Lin Jin's consultation hall was a dangerous place, he dragged Lu Yunhe and fled. After Lu Yunhe left, Zhao Ying and Lu Xiaoyun continued to discuss their evolution strategies. Lin Jin had nothing else to do. Since it was still early, he might as well go home and take a look. Yesterday, Lin Jin hired some workers to repair his house and yard. He had to go back and check on their progress. After all, he had spent some money on it. Without disturbing the two apprentices, Lin Jin led Xiao Hu out of the association and headed home. Maple City's city area wasn't small. To get home, Lin Jin had to pass through 2 main streets and 4 alleys. Along the way, he found it interesting to observe the otherworldly sights and the vendors on the streets. Just a few days ago, he was just an ordinary person in the modern world. Halfway through his journey, he passed by a medicine hall. Lin Jin wanted to buy some medicinal ingredients so he could refine some energy-gathering pills. These pills could be consumed by pet beasts or humans. Xiaohua, Zhao Ying, and Lu Xiaoyun's pet beasts could consume some energy-gathering pills daily to slowly increase their strength and show signs of evolution earlier. This medicine hall was located in a decent location. The signboard was extravagant and the lobby was bright and spacious. There were more than 10 counters inside and medicine drawers were densely packed. 7 to 8 employees were serving customers. Taking a deep breath, Lin Jin could smell the aroma of medicine. Perhaps it was because of Lin Jin's one-ring beast tattoo sleeve. An employee immediately came over to greet him. "You must be appraiser Lin?" the employee suddenly asked after noticing the one-ring beast tattoo on Lin Jin's sleeve. Lin Jin was a little excited. After all, if someone could recognize him without even announcing his name, it meant that he had some reputation. So, tidying his clothes and straightening his back, Lin Jin asked, "You know me?" The employee smiled. "Even if I haven't met you before, I've heard of you. After all, there are only 2 official rank 1 beast appraisers in Maple City. One of them is the young master of the Gao family whom everyone knows, and the other one is none other than you." That was true. Just then, the employee continued, "Moreover, you have a special relationship with our Chun Medicine Hall. As employees, how could we not recognize you?" Huh. This time, Lin Jin was puzzled. This medicine hall was called Chun Medicine Hall, but he didn't seem to have any relationship with this Chun Medicine Hall. Right? Could it be his predecessor? Lin Jin tried to find some answers from his predecessor's memories, but as soon as he tried, he felt dizzy. It seemed like his predecessor's memories of this Chun Medicine Hall were fragmented, or rather, he didn't want to remember it. Why was that? Lin Jin stopped thinking about it. His predecessor was his predecessor, and he was himself. Even if there was a grudge between them, it had nothing to do with him. "Appraiser Lin, are you here to get the medicine? Or are you here to look for our young mistress?" The employee asked again. Why was there another young mistress? Memories began surging out of his mind. Like a wound that had already scabbed over was suddenly reopened, or like feces in a cesspool being boiled and bubbling. Some bad memories that he wanted to forget popped up in his mind. Lin Jin felt dizzy and his head hurt. Noticing this, the employee wanted to help him up, but was scared away by Xiaohua. Xiaohua was clearly worried about Lin Jin, so he could only watch helplessly. Fortunately, Lin Jin recovered quickly. F*CK, so that's what happened. "Say, my predecessor, you're such a coward. Isn't it just a woman? Do you have to do this?" Chapter 46. It had only been a few days since Lin Jin transmigrated to this world, and this body's memories were like countless dusty books. Not all of them could be inherited by Lin Jin immediately. Lin Jin didn't know about the painful memories that the original owner didn't want to remember. But once he touched them, they would resurface on their own. Lin Jin studied those memories and only felt one word: useless. Of course, this was his predecessor's fault. He wasn't willing to shoulder it. The situation was simple. Lin Jin's predecessor was once engaged to the daughter of the Chun family's medicine hall, Chun Yuan. One was a down-and-out beast appraiser, while the other was a medicine hall's daughter. They were supposed to be completely unrelated, but because Lin Jin wasn't down and out when he first became an official beast appraiser, it wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he was riding on the crest of success. Back then, Lin Jin had saved an elderly man along the way. That elderly man was none other than the owner of the Chun Medicine Hall, Chun Wen-lin. Chun Wen-lin was a well-educated and reasonable man. Since Lin Jin saved his life, he was obviously grateful, so he invited Lin Jin to his house and held a banquet to thank him. After a while, when he found out that Lin Jin was an official beast appraiser, Chun Wenjie decided to betroth his daughter, Chun Yuanyuan, to Lin Jin in return. Back then, Su Yuanyuan came out too. When they met, the good-for-nothing Lin Jin took a liking to her and agreed to the engagement. Su Yuanyuan didn't say anything back then. After all, marriage was decided by one's parents. Or rather, she had taken a liking to Lin Jin. It was fine at first. The good-for-nothing Lin Jin and Su Yuanyuan met on a few dates. It was romantic and poetic, but the good times didn't last. One day, Su Yuanyuan stopped paying attention to Lin Jin. Not only did they stop seeing each other, but she also made derogatory remarks about him. She even wanted to call off the engagement. Unfortunately, the good-for-nothing Lin Jin was so infatuated that he embarrassed himself quite a bit. Su Yuanyuan's mother passed away when she was young, and Chun Wen-lin was busy with his business, so she lacked discipline and acted willfully. She cried, threw a tantrum, and even threatened to hang herself, forcing Chun Wen-lin to call off the engagement. One could imagine how Lin Jin became a laughingstock. The blowback then, to put it in modern terms, had made him autistic and depressed. Truth be told, to Lin Jin, this wasn't a big deal at all. Why did he become autistic? You thought that you could spend the rest of your life with me after seeing me for a few times. Coward, you coward. This was what happened in his memories. Lin Jin shook his head, dispelling the negative emotions in his mind. The coward from before was dead. Now, Lin Jin was the one in charge. Chun Yuanyuan? I don't even like Gao Yuanyuan. Opening his eyes, Lin Jin was no longer affected by that memory. After all, the past was the past. He couldn't possibly go over there and yell at them, "Life is full of ups and downs. Don't bully the young for being poor," or something like that. He just had to do what he had to do. Today, he was here to buy medicinal herbs. It was that simple. "Buddy, come here. I'll get the medicine." Lin Jin called the shop assistant over. Then he took out a pen and paper and wrote down the herbs needed to concoct the energy-gathering pill one by one. Then he asked the assistant to get the herbs. The waiter didn't ask any more questions and went to get the medicine. Lin Jin waited on the spot, looking around. He had to admit that the Chun family's business was pretty good. There was an endless stream of people coming and going. Just then, a few people came in. Leading the group was a woman about the same age as Lin Jin. She wore a pink pleated skirt and a white mink shawl. Her shirt was buttoned up to her waist, accentuating her lithe figure. Her facial features were regular and beautiful, but her expression was currently cold. "This is outrageous." Zhu Yingying is just relying on her family's influence. In terms of looks and figure, which part of her is better than me? Why can she go to the Red Leaf Flower Festival, but I can't? The woman yelled as she walked in. The people along the way were so frightened that they parted to make way for her. Beside this woman was a pet beast, a maned jackal. Although it was a dog, it was an extremely ferocious beast. It was written in books that jackals with manies were known as maned jackals. They had strong physiques, sharp teeth, and the strength to fight lions and tigers. They were greedy and bloodthirsty. Of course, maned jackals weren't considered rare beasts, but among regular pet beasts, they were definitely one of the top in terms of ferocity. This woman's pet beast was so ferocious that no one dared to go near it. The attendants who came with the woman didn't dare to make a sound, afraid of angering their mistress. At the sight of this woman, Lin Jin shook his head. What a coincidence! Not only did he stumble into the Chun Medicine Hall today, but he also bumped into Chun Yuanyuan, the woman who had captivated his good-for-nothing predecessor. It was a pity that Lin Jin now had high standards. After all, both Zhao Ying and Lu Xiaoyan were outstanding beauties, much better than this Chun Yuanyuan. After seeing such beautiful women every day, it would be strange if his taste wasn't picky. Lin Jin wasn't familiar with Chun Yuanyuan, so he pretended not to see her. But as soon as Chun Yuanyuan entered, she saw Lin Jin. This allowed her to find a place to vent her anger that she had nowhere to vent. She raised her eyebrows and pointed a finger at Lin Jin. Who let this piece of trash in? One of the employees immediately came over to speak. Lin Jin frowned. This Chen Yuan had no manners at all. She didn't look like a lady from a wealthy family at all. Perhaps after hearing the employee's words, Chen Yuan sneered. Buy medicine? Does he have money? He's just a pauper. Open your eyes wider. Don't let him steal anything. If he loses anything, I'll hold you responsible. F***CK. Lin Jin was infuriated. This woman was a mad dog. Lin Jin couldn't be bothered with someone like her. Since he couldn't afford to offend her, he could hide from her. Also, Maple City was a huge place with many medicine halls. It wasn't like he had to buy medicine from the Chun Medicine Hall. He got up and headed outside. Lin Jin couldn't be bothered to spare this woman a second glance. However, Lin Jin had underestimated one thing. To some hysterical women, this sort of disregard was equivalent to a declaration of war. Using their weird logic, who do you think you are? Why do you have to ignore me? Lin Jin, stop right there. Chen Yuan bellowed. Lin Jin didn't even turn around. He had always maintained a respectful distance from people with mental issues. This made Chen Yuan even angrier. Her lack of upbringing had made her hot-tempered and irascible. She would never consider the consequences of her actions. She was already filled with anger, but now her anger erupted once more. And all her anger was directed at Lin Jin. Bite him! At Su Yuan's command, her pet beast immediately pounced on the jackal. Usually, she would let her pet beast bite people. However, this pet beast wouldn't dare to actually bite someone to death. Usually, it would just be a small bite, and some compensation would be paid. Hence, her domineering personality had been nurtured. However, little did she know that she would be kicking an iron plate this time, and the hardest iron plate at that. Lin Jin still didn't turn around. Only Xiao Hua did, glancing at the main jackal. His rank 3 pet beast deterrence ability was unleashed in an instant and retracted in the blink of an eye. Like a peerless swordsman, he unsheathed his sword and sheathed it. In the blink of an eye, the main jackal's eyes rolled back, and it fainted from the immense aura of a beast king. Although it might seem exaggerated, it was the truth. A single glare from Xiao Hua was enough to make a pet beast faint. A perfect rank 3 pet beast against a regular rank 1 dog beast. The difference was overwhelming. Moreover, Xiao Hua had cultivated the beast energy formation. In ancient times, he would be a legendary energy practitioner. Knocking out a low-level beast was a piece of cake for him. Outside, Lin Jin's back was proud and aloof. His clothes fluttered in the wind as he walked away in a carefree manner. Xiao Hua followed closely behind him, his fur also fluttering in the wind, leaving behind the dumbfounded passers-by and Chen Yuan who was so shocked that she forgot to curse. Chapter 47. It took Chen Yuan a long time to regain her senses. Lin Jin, how dare you do this to me? She was gnashing her teeth. Most people would reflect upon themselves when faced with such a situation. But there were some people in this world who didn't know how to reflect. They felt that everyone should revolve around them, and that the ones at fault would always be others, never themselves. The person who used to be so obedient and admired her suddenly ignored her and even rebelled against her. This made her dizzy with anger. Miss, General Wei Wu has fainted. One of the Qin family servants went over to check on the pet beast. The main jackal's eyes were rolled back, and it was foaming at the mouth. Its 4 legs would twitch from time to time, and no one could wake it up. It was completely unconscious. I'm not blind. Chen Yuan had named her pet beast, General Wei Wu, because of its ferocity. Who knew it would pass out so suddenly? She had no idea what was going on. Lin Jin, how dare you ignore me today and embarrass me so much? Just you wait, this isn't over. Chen Yuan was so angry that she kicked General Wei Wu. Not only did poor General Wei Wu pass out, but he also suffered a beating for no reason. After leaving another medicine hall, Lin Jin bought the materials needed to refine the energy-gathering pill. Speaking of the energy-gathering pill, there were no records of it in any books as the pill recipe had long been lost. However, Lin Jin could find the corresponding recipe and refinement method from the Museum of Deadly Beasts' many methods of strengthening pet beast physique. Lin Jin already had some ideas on how to obtain benefits from the museum. For example, the Six Suns Beast Soul Pill he refined previously didn't exist in this world. But because it was required for Xiao Hua's perfect evolution method, the museum had detailed information about it. In other words, through this method, Lin Jin could obtain more benefits than just beast deterrence and the beast energy formation. Just the pill recipe alone was more than enough for him to dig out. Now that he had the materials and the pellet furnace, Lin Jin couldn't be bothered to buy it, so he just borrowed it from Lu Yunhe. When he got home, a few craftsmen were working in full swing. The frame of the house that was originally burned down had been rebuilt. It was estimated that it would be repaired in a few days. The new house was bigger and made of better materials. When the foreman saw Lin Jin, he immediately came over to greet him. "Appraiser Lin, you're here." The foreman was a local and was quite honest. Some of the workers' pet beasts were transporting wood. Some were mules, some were horses. These pet beasts were practical, and the foreman's pet beast was a large monkey. Climbing high and low and installing mortise and tenon joints at high places were much more efficient than humans. Lin Jin skimmed through it and was quite satisfied with it. He paid them for the day's work without hesitation. At this moment, the old bull that was transporting the stones suddenly fell to the ground and couldn't get up. A few of the craftsmen became anxious and went to check on it. However, no matter how much they kicked and hit it, the old bull wouldn't get up. It just stared at it and panted heavily. "Lu Lao-san, what's wrong with your pet beast? No matter what, we have to move the stones away. It's blocking the road," the foreman said anxiously. The old bull happened to be lying in the middle of the road. With it blocking the road, it would be troublesome if carriages couldn't get through. The craftsman named Lu Lao-san was also anxious. "I don't know what's going on either. I've never encountered something like this before. It won't get up no matter what I say." "Is it sick?" "That's possible. What do we do now? There's so much stone, and we can't move it away at once." By now, the carriages behind them had been blocked. Many of the neighbors had come to watch the commotion. Lin Jin strode over. Since he had encountered this problem, he might as well take a look. After all, as long as it was a pet beast, Lin Jin had absolute confidence that he could solve it. "Let me take a look." Lin Jin pushed through the crowd and headed inside. Most of the people here recognized Lin Jin and knew that he was a beast appraiser. However, due to Lin Jin's bad reputation, even the neighbors wouldn't approach him for evaluation. They didn't trust him from the bottom of their hearts. The same went for the craftsmen. They clearly didn't have much confidence in Lin Jin. From this point alone, the destructive power of rumors was apparent, especially to the average person. They believed these rumors without a shred of doubt, especially when it came to the appraisal accident. To them, Lin Jin's skills weren't up to par. "Why don't we get a veterinarian to take a look?" At this, Lin Jin smiled bitterly. However, he didn't mind these people's gazes and distrust. First, he took a look at the old bull. The bull was huge in size, and its skin was coarse and thick. It had obviously been working hard for a long period of time, as its skin was covered in cracks. Judging by the horns, hooves, and the bottom of its eyes, the bull's horns were cracked, and so were its hooves. The bull's eyes were bleeding, and its eyes were wide open, exhaling but not inhaling. This was definitely an emergency. But what embarrassed Lin Jin was that with his abilities, without the Museum of Deadly Beasts, he couldn't tell what kind of emergency this was, nor did he know how to treat it. Lin Jin was worrying too much. Forget him. Even Wang Ji would be at a loss when faced with an emergency like this. Now that the situation was dire and the old bull was about to die, Lin Jin wasted no time and immediately reached out to touch the bull's head. In an instant, the Museum of Deadly Beasts had the old bull's specimen and information tablet. Rank 1 Pet Beast, Land Bull. Earth Attribute. Potential Rate, 1. Current Status, Emergency. Brain damaged. Near-death state. Treatment steps are as follows. Just as Lin Jin predicted, the old bull was suffering from an emergency, and it was a life-threatening one. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that forget Wang Ji, even a rank 3 beast appraiser wouldn't be able to do anything in this situation. But even in such a dire situation, the museum still had a treatment method. Lin Jin quickly scanned through and had an idea. Following the museum's detailed treatment steps, he condensed a spirit energy finger and jabbed it at the Lingguan acupoint on the old bull's head. Spirit energy finger was a simple spell. As an official beast appraiser, his predecessor wasn't so useless that he didn't even know this basic technique. Hence, with his inherited memories, Lin Jin could perform it easily. With the enhancement of spirit energy and the help of his pet beast fire spirit, his body was as sharp as a blade. With just one finger, a small hole opened up on the old bull's head and blood immediately gushed out. Everyone around was startled. "Appraiser Lin, what are you doing?" The old bull's owner panicked. With reddened eyes, he wanted to argue with Lin Jin, but fortunately, someone stopped him. Lin Jin didn't have time to deal with them. The old bull's condition was critical, and he couldn't afford to waste any time. He had to focus on the next step of treatment. Hence, with a thought, Xiaohua stood guard beside him to prevent others from interfering. The old bull's blood flowed out, but Lin Jin didn't avoid it. His clothes were stained, but he didn't mind. That finger strike, just now, was just right. The reason why it was so accurate was because the old cow specimen that the Museum of Deadly Beasts had condensed had marked the specific acupoints. It was like comparing an actual object, so it would be strange if he made a mistake. Then, Lin Jin struck the old bull's acupoints. It was odd, but after just a few simple strikes, the old bull's breathing calmed down. The situation clearly wasn't that critical anymore. The old bull's tail even started wagging, but it still couldn't stand up. "All right." Lin Jin flicked the blood off his hand and got up to pluck a leaf from a nearby tree. He also got someone to gather some grass ash. Then he took out a medicinal herb he bought from the medicine hall and chewed it up before applying it to the old bull's wound. Then he applied the grass, ash, and the leaf over the wound, and that was it. "Don't let it work today. It should be fine after resting for 2 days." Lin Jin turned and said. Then he patted the bull's head, and something happened that left everyone dumbfounded. The old bull mooed, wagged its tail, shook its head, and stood up to walk over to its owner. Amazing! Everyone clearly saw that the old bull was only exhaling but not inhaling. It looked like it was going to die, so how did it manage to stand up on its own in such a short time? Although the crowd didn't know how to treat pet beasts, they weren't blind. How could they not tell that it was Lin Jin who saved the old bull from a sudden emergency? The most excited one was the bull's owner. This blacksmith came from an average family, and to him, the old bull was a very important asset. He relied on the bull to transport his work, so he couldn't live without it. More importantly, it had been with him for more than a decade, so they had developed a bond. The bull was no different from family. Earlier, he was so excited that he wanted to argue with the owner. Now that he thought about it, it was fortunate that someone stopped him. Otherwise, he might have disturbed Appraiser Lin. Now that he looked at Appraiser Lin, in order to save his pet beast, the old bull, he didn't even care about being reprimanded. His hands and clothes were stained with blood. His generosity and character were truly admirable. Appraiser Lin, The more the blacksmith thought about it, the more embarrassed he became. He immediately went forward and knelt on the ground. Lin Jin smiled and helped him up, saying, "I specialize in beast appraising. How could I stand by and do nothing in a situation like this?" Well said. The foreman was the first to applaud. He had witnessed what happened today with his own eyes. Previously, they had only heard that Lin Jin was incompetent and relied on luck to become a beast appraiser, and that he had even caused an appraisal accident. Hence, they had been spreading false rumors. But what they saw today proved those rumors to be bullsh*t. With such a doctor's benevolence, generosity, and skills, anyone who still believed in those rumors would have to be out of their minds. In the face of reality, the rumors crumbled on their own. Chapter 48. Appraiser Lin, your clothes. I'll get you a new one, the old bull's owner suddenly said. Lin Jin waved his hand. It's fine. It's just some blood. I'll just wash it off. Lin Jin clearly didn't mind. The blacksmiths and foremen were now convinced by Lin Jin's abilities. Lin Jin didn't take it to heart. As for the fee, he didn't really mind it. Just then, someone called out, "Appraiser Lin." Lin Jin turned to see a tall, elderly man in black attire. He also looked familiar. Lin Jin remembered. He was the follower of that strange man he met at the association 2 days ago. Not only did this old man refuse to pay, he even injured Lin Jin and Xiaohua before he left. "It's you? What are you trying to do?" Lin Jin's expression darkened. Xiaohua let out a low growl, ready to pounce at any moment. The old man dressed in black was the travel-worn Liu Bin who had rushed over from Jade Dragon City. The sixth princess, Hiyu, was still unconscious, and the palace doctors were helpless. Liu Bin recalled Lin Jin's words in Maple City a few days ago, so he rushed over to see if he could find a ray of hope to save the sixth princess. Of course, his identity was still a secret, and he had no intention of revealing it. On his way here, he first went to the Beast Appraisal Association but couldn't find Lin Jin. After asking passers-by, he found his way here and happened to see Lin Jin treating the old bull. He was also the one who stopped the bull's owner earlier. Liu Bin had witnessed the entire process of Lin Jin saving the old bull. Although it was a small matter, Liu Bin could tell that Lin Jin was no ordinary person. If he was right, the old bull's internal veins were ruptured. There was almost no way to save such a situation, and death was the only outcome. Yet, Lin Jin easily resolved this fatal situation. At this sight, Liu Bin knew that Lin Jin was a powerhouse. In addition, Liu Bin's meticulous observation allowed him to observe Lin Jin's pet beast. 2 days ago, it was still a rank 1 firewolf with nothing special about it. But in just 2 days, it was as if it had been reborn. Liu Bin even felt threatened by it. Liu Bin's identity was special, and he was skilled. If even Liu Bin felt threatened, it couldn't just be a rank 1 or 2 pet beast. Liu Bin suspected that Lin Jin's firewolf was already at rank 3. What kind of person could evolve their pet beast consecutively in such a short period of time? This was practically impossible. Hence, his opinion of Lin Jin rose even higher. Since he was here to seek treatment, his attitude was more respectful. "Appraiser Lin, I was reckless the day before. Please forgive me." Liu Bin saluted. If the nobles of the royal city were to see this, their jaws would probably drop. To think that the famous General Liu would be so courteous to a mere rank 1 beast appraiser, even taking the initiative to apologize. This was unimaginable. Lin Jin didn't know who he was, but he knew that this old man was either rich or respectable. The last time he attacked, the Museum of Deadly Beasts reacted when he touched Lin Jin with a finger. It was only later that Lin Jin found out that if a blood contract cultivator were to touch them, they could indirectly learn about their pet beasts. This old man in black was the strongest expert Lin Jin had ever met. With an attitude of staying out of trouble, keeping a low profile, and enjoying life, Lin Jin would try his best not to provoke someone who was obviously of high status. Since the old man had taken the initiative to apologize, it couldn't be anything good, so Lin Jin replied nonchalantly, "It's just a small matter. I've forgotten about it, so don't take it to heart." Having said that, he turned to leave. It had only been a few days since he transmigrated here, so Lin Jin didn't want to get involved in any trouble. As for the old man's intention, it didn't take much thought to figure out that something must have happened to that cross-dresser. Lin Jin shouldn't have said anything back then. Seeing that Lin Jin was about to leave, Liu Bin immediately stopped him. "Appraiser Lin, please wait. I'm here to ask for a favor." "What is it?" Lin Jin asked nonchalantly, even though he already knew the answer. Liu Bin took a deep breath. "Appraiser Lin, with your sharp eyes, you managed to identify the curse in my young master's body. Today, I'm here to seek treatment." Sure enough, Lin Jin was infuriated at the thought of it. Back then, he was being kind, but the other party didn't listen to him and even injured him. Now, he was here to ask for help. Did they think Lin Jin had no temper? Moreover, why should he help them? Lin Jin shook his head. "Mr. Liu, you must have gotten the wrong person. I'm a beast appraiser, not a physician." Liu Bin could tell that Lin Jin's anger had yet to subside. "You even said that I forgot about a small matter." Lin Jin clearly remembered it and was very concerned about it. "Appraiser Lin, I was at fault for what happened that day. But my young master is in grave danger now. If I can appease appraiser Lin and help me, I'm willing to cut off my arm as an apology. After bowing, he actually pulled out a dagger from his waist and sliced off his left arm. Lin Jin's scalp tingled. Xiaohua. The rank 3 Xiaohua and Lin Jin were telepathically connected. Xiaohua darted toward Lu Bin to stop him from harming himself. Even so, the dagger still pierced half a foot into Lu Bin's arm, causing blood to gush out. Having lived 2 lives, Lin Jin considered himself to be knowledgeable, but he had never met such a ferocious person who wanted to cut off his own arm after just a few words. Was he crazy? Lin Jin couldn't understand, so he had Xiaohua stop him in a moment of desperation. However, he didn't notice the cunning glint in Lu Bin's eyes. Lin Jin didn't know what to do against such a ruthless person. Having never met such a person before, he didn't know how to deal with him. Both of them went to a private room in a nearby tea house. Lu Bin tossed a silver ingot to the waiter, telling him not to disturb them. Appraiser Lin, I was as blind as a bat a few days ago. I really didn't know that Appraiser Lin was such a skillful person. Appraiser Lin is a kind-hearted person who even lent a helping hand to that old bull, unwilling to see it die. Now that someone's condition has worsened, how could you stand by and do nothing? Since Appraiser Lin was able to identify the cause of the illness, he must have a solution. Whether or not the solution is effective, Lu Bin, will never forget your kindness. Admittedly, Lu Bin was a good talker and he could easily manipulate people's minds. Lin Jin frowned as if deep in thought. Lu Bin continued, Right, I haven't introduced myself. I am. Lin Jin quickly reached out to stop him. Don't say it. Please don't say it. I'm not interested in who you are. I'm not interested in that woman in men's clothing either. I don't want to cause any trouble either. These were Lin Jin's heartfelt words. This fierce man had used a knife to harm himself without batting an eyelid. He was definitely not an average person. He could be a dignitary or a bandit. Either way, Lin Jin felt the latter was more likely. Lin Jin had no intention of befriending such a dangerous person. For example, that woman in men's clothing. The curse within her was terrifying. At least, that was what the museum said. It didn't take a genius to figure out that this was a trap. Now, Lin Jin only hoped that he wouldn't be dragged into this trap so he could continue being a happy little beast appraiser. If we can't afford to offend them, we can afford to hide. Lin Jin took out a pen and paper and wrote on it, Take the 9-water floating cloud pill with Dracena once a day. The recipe for the 9-water floating cloud pill. Once he was done, he handed the paper to Lin Jin. This is the treatment method. Just follow it. It's getting late, so I won't keep you for dinner. After handing him the paper, Lin Jin turned to leave. Lu Bin didn't stop him this time because he was stunned by what was written on the paper. This is a prescription. The 9-water floating cloud pill has such a detailed recipe, and he gave it to me just like that. It wasn't that Lu Bin was overreacting, but this was just too shocking. Throughout history, prescription pills had always been treasures of every family. They would never show it to others. Take a certain master alchemist in Jade Dragon City, for example. You could ask him for a pill, but he would sell you the finished product. But the prescription? Don't even think about it. Even if you had a mountain of gold, no, a mountain of spirit stones, it would be useless. Hence, Lu Bin even thought that Lin Jin had scribbled something randomly. However, he had some basic knowledge of pharmacology. Although he couldn't distinguish the authenticity of this prescription, he could match the basic pharmacology. Whether it's real or fake, I have to give it a try. If the prescription is real and can really save the 6th princess, I can't let such an expert be buried in this tiny maple city, Lu Bin mused. Not daring to waste any more time, he dashed out of the house and leaped onto the roof. With a loud whistle, a giant eagle flew down from the sky. The eagle's wingspan was at least 20 feet. It was definitely a behemoth. Lu Bin leaped onto the eagle's back and followed it into the sky. Chapter 49. After the eagle flew away, Lin Jin emerged from the corner of the alleyway. Xiaohua. Oh, Xiaohua. Who do you think that person is? An average person wouldn't be able to own such a large eagle. This person must have an extraordinary background, Lin Jin mumbled. Beside him, Xiaohua remained silent. He couldn't speak. Say, was I being too conservative back then? I should have at least listened to his self-introduction, right? Who knows, I might even be able to get some support from him. Lin Jin continued to grumble. Woo-woo. Xiaohua's reply was probably a snort or two. You think so too? Whatever, this person isn't simple. He has a cloud sea scorpion, and his blood contract is on the 6th realm, so he should be considered a contemporary expert. It's best not to provoke someone like him for now. With the Museum of Deadly Beasts, no one will be as powerful as me in the future. Lin Jin was gleeful as he led the baffled Xiaohua toward the Beast Appraisal Association. Beast Appraisal Association, Logistics Department. For the past 2 days, Dong had been cooped up in his consultation hall, afraid to step out. 2 days ago, he was found naked and unconscious on the street. His reputation had been thoroughly humiliated. Until now, Dong he still couldn't understand why those hired thugs would betray him and attack him. Every time he recalled how pitiful it was to be surrounded by so many onlookers, Dong he trembled in anger. Smack! Dong he slammed his fat palm on the table. Those thugs escaped, and I can't find them. But this definitely has something to do with Lin Jin. I can't take this lying down. Just then someone came in. Dong he's eyes lit up at the sight, and he immediately went over to greet the person. Sister, you're back? The person who came in was a beautiful middle-aged woman. Her features bore a slight resemblance to Dong He. It was Dong He's elder sister. Dong Quebec Dong K was petite, but her aura was imposing. With a dark expression, she said, if I didn't come back, the Dong family's reputation would have been tarnished by you. Dong He looked embarrassed, but he was indignant. He mused, Sister, you're already married, so how can you represent the Dong family? Why do you have to say that about me? However, he did not dare to say this. The reason why Dong he was doing so well in the Beast Appraisal Association, managing the logistics department, was because his sister was one of the 3 elders of the association. Without this relationship, Dong he wouldn't have been able to land such a lucrative job based on his capabilities. After Dong K was seated, Dong he stood to the side. To think that someone as old as you would actually be knocked out, stripped naked, and left to dry on the streets. Tell me, what happened? Dong K asked. Dong he had no choice but to recount everything that had happened from beginning to end. You're saying you hired people to deal with Lin Jin, but they suddenly turned against you? Everything was normal at first. Not long after they went in, Lin Jin's house was burned down. I was wondering if those people had gone overboard, so I rushed in. But as soon as they saw me, they attacked me. I didn't even have a chance to speak. Dong K was clearly more thoughtful than Dong Quebec Dong. He was currently deep in thought. Dong he quickly nodded. That's right. I can't figure it out no matter how hard I tried. Dong K's expression was one of exasperation. This definitely has something to do with Lin Jin. Have you questioned him? Dong he shook his head, afraid of embarrassing himself. He didn't even dare to step out of his door for the past 2 days. Useless. Dong K was infuriated. Your brother-in-law is an elder of the association. It doesn't matter if you're embarrassed, but what about him? However, even if we don't do anything to Lin Jin, he won't be able to live for much longer. I heard that headquarters has decided to revoke his qualifications as an official beast appraiser. It'll happen in 3 to 5 days. When he's kicked out of the association, it'll be a form of revenge for you. After Dong K said this, Dong he was overjoyed. In other words, Lin Jin's dismissal was already set in stone. Also, I've discussed this with your brother-in-law. You can't just sit around doing nothing. After all, you're still an apprentice beast appraiser in name. For your future, your brother-in-law and I have decided to let you practice beast appraisals as a licensed physician. At this, Dong he immediately shook his head. Sis, I'm doing just fine in the logistics department. Why do you? Dong K raised an eyebrow and reprimanded him. What do you know? What's so great about being a mere logistics manager? Once you become an official beast appraiser, your achievements will be much greater than a mere manager. An official beast appraiser? Dong he was tempted, but he knew his own limits. Shaking his head, he said, It's not that easy to become an official beast appraiser. Sis, I'm not cut out for that. Dong K chuckled. There's nothing great about becoming an official beast appraiser. It's just experience and knowledge. As an apprentice beast appraiser, you can earn experience by working as a licensed physician. Sometimes, you don't even need to take an exam. As long as there's a vacancy in the association, the chief can make an exception and promote you. Dong He was stunned. Wasn't Jia Qian currently walking down this path? Noticing her brother's expression, Dong K whispered, I know what you're thinking. That slut Jia Qian wants to be promoted, but does she deserve it? Does she think everything will be fine just because Wang Ji spoke up for her? What a joke. She has no foundation, so how can she compare to you? At least you have your brother-in-law to speak up for you. You're so much better than her. As for that sly old fox Wang Ji, how could he possibly give her such an opportunity? He's just trying to take advantage of her. But that slut is so reserved. Up until now, she hasn't even let Wang Ji have a taste of her. Tell me, how could Wang Ji possibly be happy about this? He's been holding a grudge against her for a long time now. Dong He was tempted. Truth be told, if he could really become an official beast appraiser, he would be even more glorious than he was now. One more thing. Tonight, a rank 3 beast appraiser from Jade Dragon Kingdom's headquarters will be a guest at the City Lord Manor. Your brother-in-law will be accompanying him as well. He'll think of a way to make that rank 3 beast appraiser your nominal mentor. With that, your future path will be paved. Upon hearing Dong K's words, Dong He no longer hesitated. Only a fool would let go of such an opportunity. Although he wanted to get intimate with Jia Qian, the problem was that he was the same as Wang Ji. He hadn't tasted any meat yet. Now that he thought about it, how could he not know that this woman was using him to achieve her own goals? If that was the case, why should he care about her? His sister was right. He had a foundation, and as long as his brother-in-law helped him, he might really be able to become an official beast appraiser. At the thought of his limitless future, Dong He couldn't help but look excited. Compared to the simple-minded Dong He, his sister, Dong K, was more mature. Jia Qian is nothing to be afraid of. The only thing we have to ensure now is to make that useless Lin Jin scram. If he gives up his position, then you can take it. Also, don't underestimate him too much. Be it luck or fate, for him to be able to become an official beast appraiser, he at least has some capabilities. Although it's a given that he'll be chased out, we still have to be careful. He was able to produce a fire spirit crystal and even made the person you hired turn against him. Be it luck or anything else, you can't let your guard down. Dong K was a scheming and meticulous person. Dong He quickly asked, then how do we guard against him? Simple. Find someone to keep an eye on him. Chapter 50. By the time Lin Jin returned to the Beast Appraisal Association, Zhao Ying and Lu Xiaoyan had already written down Lu Ba's evolution ideas and methods. This was the homework Lin Jin had left for them. After reading through them, Lin Jin nodded. They were clearly much better than before. At least, they were starting to head in the right direction. Still, they were a little conservative, especially Zhao Ying. She had a solid foundation, but she didn't dare to take too many risks. Lu Xiaoyan was a little stronger, but sometimes her ideas were too wild. You two have improved. How about this? I'll write down Lu Ba's evolution ideas and methods. Take a look, and it should help you improve a little. Having said that, Lin Jin finished his unfinished evaluation report. Then, he signed and stamped his seal before handing it to the girls. Come to think of it, they had racked their brains, writing down everything they could and couldn't think of. But now that they read Lin Jin's evolution methods, they were astounded. Comparing oneself to others was infuriating. Just look at Appraiser Lin. Not only were his ideas novel, but they weren't wild either. They were supported by a solid foundation. Every step, every possibility, as well as how to use pills, spirit stones, and dermic arts to activate it to form signs of advancement, were all written down clearly and could withstand scrutiny. In fact, this evaluation report could even be used as a model for teaching. So it works like this. Appraiser Lin has such a profound understanding of the 5 elements of yin and yang. This kind of thinking is unheard of in pharmacology. It's so important. It's no wonder pharmacology was a compulsory subject in Beast Appraiser School. It's a pity I didn't study it properly back then. Zhao Ying and Lu Xiaoyun began immersing themselves in their studies, unable to extricate themselves. Watching these two peerless beauties focus on their studies, and what they were learning was a wonderful sight to behold. Just then, someone outside asked, "Is Appraiser Lin here?" A man dressed like an artisan came in with his pet beast. He was holding Lin Jin's number plate in his hand, clearly here for an appraisal. Business. Lin Jin immediately sat down and invited the man in. Since Lin Jin had treated the old craftsman cow and saved his life, his name spread like wildfire among the craftsmen's circle. These craftsmen were all commoners. It wasn't easy to get a consultation with other beast appraisers, and they had to queue up. They knew that appraiser Lin Jin wasn't as bad as the rumors made him out to be. Not only was he not bad, but he was also highly skilled and had a noble character. As a result, those who needed beast appraisals and medical advice immediately flocked to him because of his reputation. This was only the first one. Soon, many people came to ask for Lin Jin's consultation number. The previously quiet consultation hall suddenly became lively. Lin Jin, who had been idle all this while, began to get busy. Some passers-by who didn't know the truth were curious. After all, Lin Jin's infamy in the Beast Appraisal Association had been intentionally spread by others. To put it bluntly, even passers-by who had never been to the Beast Appraisal Association had heard of this useless beast appraiser who didn't live up to his reputation. There were even some who took it as a joke. Naturally, these people were curious as to why Lin Jin, who had been ignored all this while, was suddenly visited by more than one person. Only after asking did they find out the reason. It turned out that it wasn't just the craftsmen's circle who were defending Lin Jin's reputation. The customers who had witnessed Lin Jin tasting dishes and punishing Zhang Bailey at Symphony Restaurant all said that Lin Jin was truly talented. In addition, Lin Jin had taken the initiative to shamelessly invite a few people to help him with beast appraisals, and the results were surprisingly good. With all these people testifying together, Lin Jin suddenly became a hot topic. Although the number of visitors didn't increase because of this, there were still quite a few who came to watch the commotion. When someone left after a beast appraisal, people gathered around to ask about it curiously. Among the crowd was a chubby figure dressed in an apprentice beast appraiser's pattern sleeve. He paced around Lin Jin's consultation hall a few times until the crowd dwindled. Then, he pushed the door open and entered. Lin Jin was in a good mood today. Although his consultation number wasn't as high in demand as Wang Ji and Gao Jiang, it was much better than before. He was even on par with some of the more skilled apprentices like Jia Qian and Zhang He. This was a huge improvement. That's the way. We have to take things one step at a time. There's no hurry. Sooner or later, they'll all know of my capabilities, Lin Jin said gleefully. At the same time, the chubby apprentice entered. Greetings, Appraiser Lin. Upon seeing Lin Jin, the guy immediately went up to greet him, looking like a simple and honest man. Who are you? Lin Jin could tell that the man was an apprentice of the association. However, there were many apprentices in the association, and Lin Jin didn't know most of them. The chubby man was all smiles. Appraiser Lin, my name is Han Dong. I've just joined the association not too long ago. I've heard of Appraiser Lin's skills and character, so I'd like to apply to be apprenticed under you. Lin Jin was overjoyed. As an official beast appraiser, the number of apprentices he had under him was an important indicator of his abilities and achievements. Lin Jin was single before this. After Zhang He's betrayal, he didn't have many apprentices to begin with, and they all ran away. Although this was the fault of his predecessor, it clearly wasn't a good thing for Lin Jin. Later on, Zhao Ying and Lu Xiaoyan volunteered to be apprenticed under him. However, it was also because Lin Jin used his abilities to conquer them. Han Dong was the first person who volunteered to be apprenticed under him. That's good, that's good. Go and settle the paperwork, Lin Jin said amiably. Han Dong was stunned. Is it that simple? Appraiser Lin, don't you need to test me? In the association, people like Chief Wang Ji and Appraiser Gao Jiang were extremely strict when it came to accepting apprentices as apprentices. Not only did they have to make an appointment in advance, but they also had to go through several tests. Knowledge of various subjects, including beast identification, knowledge of the Encyclopedia of Beasts, knowledge of the 5 elemental attributes, and pharmacology were all required. After all, there were many apprentices in the association, and not everyone could learn under an official beast appraiser. Competition was a must. Lin Jin waved his hand. There's no need for that. If you know everything, why would you need to be apprenticed? Since you're here, I don't care about your foundation. Lin Jin's confidence was evident in his words. Of course, his confidence came from a museum of deadly beasts. With the museum, forget apprentices, Lin Jin was even qualified to teach that old man, Wang Ji. Han Dong had prepared quite a bit. After all, he came prepared. He was even thinking of ways to shake off Lin Jin's suspicions. But to think it would be this easy. In fact, apart from asking his name, the other party didn't ask anything else. Everyone says that Lin Jin is incompetent, undisciplined, and incompetent. Now that I've seen it for myself, it's true. It's a taboo that he doesn't value his apprentice's assessment. Doesn't he know that the apprentice's scores are linked to his monthly assessment? Han Dong thought to himself, but he wouldn't say it out loud, because he was a spy hired by Dong He to begin with. Han Dong had arranged for him to monitor Lin Jin. Moreover, Han Dong knew that if nothing went wrong, Lin Jin would soon be stripped of his beast appraiser license and kicked out of the association. Han Dong just had to make sure that nothing went wrong during this period. After the deed was done, Dong He promised to give Han Dong a chance to serve as an apprentice. This was an important step for an apprentice, so Han Dong came. Chapter 51. Han Dong went to settle the paperwork, and soon he was officially registered under Lin Jin's name. This was unreal. Had it been any other beast appraiser, it would have taken at least 5 to 6 days from the application, review, assessment, and hiring process. Lin Jin brought Han Dong over to greet Zhao Ying and Lu Xiaoyan. Han Dong's eyes lit up at the sight of Zhao Ying and Lu Xiaoyan. He had long heard of these two beauties in the association. Even though he only met them by chance, he never greeted them. Now that he was meeting them officially, things were different. There was a ranking of beauties in Maple City's Beast Appraisal Association. Of course, at the top of the list was the #1 apprentice, Jia Qian, who was close to becoming an official beast appraiser. In second place was Lu Xiaoyan. Zhaoing was a rising star, but she had good looks and could fight. At the very least, she was on par with Lu Xiaoyan. Meeting her today, she truly lived up to her reputation. I'm Han Dong. Greetings, seniors. Han Dong was obviously quick-witted and quick-witted. Otherwise, Dong He wouldn't have picked him to be his spy. Zhaoing merely nodded without saying a word. Lu Xiaoyan, on the other hand, said enthusiastically, "You've done the right thing by registering under Appraiser Lin's name. From now on, we'll be working in the same consultation hall. If anything happens, we'll take care of you." Han Dong nodded at once. Despite his plump figure, he was a diligent worker. As soon as he arrived, he was already sweeping the floor with a broom and wiping the tables. Lin Jin nodded at his eagerness to do most of the work. At the very least, this newcomer was diligent. Han Dong was here as a spy, so he kept his mission in mind. Hence, while it looked like he was cleaning, he was actually observing Lin Jin's consultation hall. Frankly speaking, this place was quite run down. Dong He planned to work as a registered consultant as well. Even as an apprentice, Dong He's consultation hall was more spacious and brighter than this place, let alone appraiser Gao Jiang and Chief Wang Ji. At least in terms of hardware, there was no comparison at all. The consultation hall was divided into 2 rooms. The outer room was for beast appraisals, while the inner room was for storage. Under the pretense of cleaning, Han Dong walked in and immediately saw the pet beasts inside. The most eye-catching one was the sapphire tortoise that Zukin had left here. After all, this pet beast was huge, about half the height of a grown man. With such a large tortoise standing there, it was hard not to notice. The turtle was lying on the ground. Although it wasn't moving, it stuck its head out and looked at the fire wolf. The fire wolf was naturally Xiaohua. Ever since Xiaohua evolved perfectly and became a rank 3 pet beast, his aura was completely different from a mongrel from before. Although he wasn't the biggest, he had a unique aura that hinted at the strength of a beast king. He was currently coiled up in a corner. When Han Dong entered, he looked over cautiously. The man and the wolf looked at each other. Han Dong was immediately defeated. He averted his gaze, feeling extremely shocked. This fire wolf is a little strange. Han Dong didn't know if he was imagining things, but he had a feeling that this fire wolf was very wary of him. Moreover, its gaze didn't seem like that of a pet beast. Instead, it made his heart palpitate and fearful. It was really strange. Although Han Dong wasn't an official beast appraiser, he was still an apprentice, so he had the ability to resist pet beasts. This was called mind calming, a basic skill that apprentices must master. After all, they would have to deal with all kinds of pet beasts in the future. Encountering gentle beasts was fine, but if they were to encounter a ferocious one, would they be frightened by a single glance? Of course not. Hence, mind calming was a compulsory course, and they had to meet the required standards. However, when Han Dong glanced at him earlier, he felt that he had not learned this foundational compulsory course well. He had actually been scared stiff. An accident. This is an accident. Unconvinced, Han Dong continued to observe. Other than the sapphire tortoise and the fire wolf, there was Zhao Ying's pangolin and Lu Xiaoyan's red fox. Resting behind Xiao Hua, the two pet beasts were equally imposing. It was then that Han Dong realized something very important. Other than the sapphire tortoise, the other pet beasts seemed to be rank 2. After all, he was an apprentice beast appraiser with a solid foundation. There was no way he would be wrong about this. Rank 2 pet beasts exuded a rich aura and could already utilize elemental powers. Just by opening his spiritual eye, he could tell from the elemental spirit energy around the pet beasts. There was no way he could be wrong about this. Appraiser Lin's pet beast is rank 2, and the pet beasts of the 2 apprentices under him are also rank 2. This is an important discovery. I have to note it down and report it back, Han Dong thought to himself. Then, he went back to pretending to clean up. Wait a minute. Suddenly remembering something, Han Dong quickly turned to the sapphire tortoise. Whose pet beast was this giant tortoise? And why did it look so familiar? Han Dong pondered for a moment before remembering that he had seen this sapphire tortoise more than once. It's young Master Zhu's pet beast. It's young Master Zhu's pet beast. Young Master Zhu has visited the association several times, including Chief Wang Ji and appraiser Gao Jiang. It seems like this turtle is suffering from a strange disease, but I heard that it's incurable. Even Chief Wang Ji and appraiser Gao Jiang couldn't do anything about it, so they asked young Master Zhu to give up. Recently, this sapphire turtle looked like it was about to die, so why does it look so energetic now? This was definitely a huge discovery. Puzzled, Han Dong went forward to take a closer look, afraid that he was mistaken. There's no mistaking it. This is young Master Zhu's pet beast. There's no mistaking it. There's even the Zhu family's mark on its shell. Han Dong took a deep breath. Just 2 days ago, this pet beast was on the brink of death and was sentenced to death by Chief Wang Ji and appraiser Gao Jiang. But today, it didn't look like it was going to die. Although it wasn't exactly jumping around, it was full of vigor. Could it be that young Master Zhu came to appraiser Lin for treatment and he was cured? Han Dong shook his head. Even he didn't believe his own speculation. How is that possible? After all, this giant tortoise was something that even Chief Wang and appraiser Gao Jiang couldn't do anything about. How could Lin Jin possibly cure it? But now that the truth was right before their eyes, they had no choice but to believe it. Han Dong was shocked, but he suppressed his emotions. He made a mental note of this, and his evaluation of Lin Jin also improved. Everyone says that appraiser Lin is ignorant and incompetent. But from the looks of it, that doesn't seem to be the case. Could it be that the rumors are all false and someone is trying to frame him? Han Dong knew that while the association appeared to be peaceful on the surface, there was actually a lot of internal strife. Perhaps his speculation was right. Even if that's the case, there's nothing I can do to change it. I'm just an insignificant apprentice. I just have to do my job well, Han Dong told himself before preparing to leave. Just then, he saw a stack of evaluation reports. He had just brought them here. Han Dong picked them up and flipped through them. His eyes immediately lit up. Amazing, this is amazing. Beast evaluation reports can be written this way. Amazing. A problem that can't be diagnosed on the surface can be identified from its attribute and environment. Is this something an average person can do? The shallow water crocodile has a fire attribute. Shouldn't it be a water attribute? This appraisal method is so novel. Man, it can even be done like this. Just like Zhao Ying and Lu Xiaoyan, anyone with even the slightest appreciation for Lin Jin's evaluation reports wouldn't be able to put them down once they read them. Han Dong's dream was to become an outstanding beast appraiser. However, he came from a poor family and wasn't particularly handsome, so he could only rely on his own hard work. In terms of basic knowledge, Han Dong was no worse than anyone else. Hence, with just one look, he was able to discern the intricacies of the evaluation reports. He immediately forgot about everything else and focused on reading them. From time to time, his expression would change as he slapped his thigh in excitement. It's amazing, isn't it? Suddenly, a voice rang out, startling Han Dong so much that he shuddered. Already feeling guilty, Han Dong dropped the evaluation reports on the floor out of fright. He turned to see Zhao Ying standing beside him with an indifferent expression. "Senior Zhao," Han Dong called out, quickly calming himself down. Zhao Ying bent down to pick up the evaluation reports. "Did I scare you just now?" It was the same when I first read Appraiser Lin's evaluation reports. I was immersed in them for several hours, unable to extricate myself. Han Dong asked, "Are these all Appraiser Lin's evaluation reports?" Zhao Ying rolled her eyes. "Of course. Did I write them?" Han Dong was truly shocked in his heart. Was this considered ignorant and incompetent? Was this considered undeserving? Was this considered a disgrace to the association? If this was considered a disgrace, then what about the others? The brain was a good thing. Sometimes when one couldn't understand something, one could just fill in the blanks. Now, in Han Dong's mind, a peerless genius was being treated as an enemy, framed, slandered, and even deliberately belittled. Chapter 52. Truth be told, Han Dong was a little disdainful of those rumor-mongers' methods. They were lowly and despicable. However, he couldn't care less. He was here as a spy, to keep an eye on Lin Jin. He just had to do his job well. Sighing inwardly, Han Dong was about to speak when an urgent voice came from outside. "What's wrong with your association? You're not going to entertain us after the consultation hours? You've asked everyone, and they're all gone. You even sent me here. Do you think I don't know that there's something wrong with this appraiser's abilities?" The voice was sharp, laced with anger and anxiety. Outside, a few people entered Lin Jin's consultation hall. They looked anxious as they carried a stretcher with a millstone-sized iron crab on it. Iron crab was a type of pet beast, and a very powerful one at that. Not only was it fast, but it also possessed incredible defensive capabilities. Many people loved it and treated it as a blood contract pet beast. It was considered a common pet beast. Right now, the iron crab on the stretcher was listless. Upon closer inspection, one could see that a layer of frost had formed on the iron crab's shell. Lin Jin immediately stepped forward. Following these people was a female apprentice who looked helpless. When she saw Lin Jin, she quickly said, "Appraiser Lin, this is an emergency." They were supposed to register Chief Wang Ji, but he has left, and Appraiser Gao Jiang isn't around. The other apprentices can't treat this case, so we had no choice but to bring it here. "Look," Lin Jin didn't let her continue. Instead, he said, "Put it on the ground. Let me take a look." The people who brought the pet beasts here were clearly reluctant. One of them said, "This appraiser Lin isn't reliable, so we wouldn't dare to let him treat us. I heard he even had an appraisal accident. Is there no one else here?" These people were imposing, and all of them had strong physiques. Glaring at Lin Jin, the young apprentice who brought them here was so frightened that he didn't know what to say. Lin Jin, on the other hand, remained calm. He pointed at the door and said, "I'll give you two choices. If you don't want to see it, carry it away. We won't be responsible if it dies outside. If you want to see it, keep it here and don't disturb my treatment." Clean and efficient, with an imposing manner. Those people were speechless after being rebuked. To be honest, other people really couldn't take a look at their iron shell crab. It wasn't that they didn't take a look, but that a few of the top-ranked apprentices had all taken a look and none of them could do anything about it. They were told to look elsewhere. Chief Wang Ji and appraiser Gao Jiang had left at the appointed time and were no longer in the association. Left with no other choice, they came here. If you were to pull it away, the pet beast might not survive the night. One of them gritted his teeth and said, "Put it down and let him see. If he can't see it, then we'll find trouble with him." Lin Jin's expression darkened. How was this supposed to be a pet beast for treatment? They were being unreasonable. Lin Jin wasn't a pushover, so how could he possibly be intimidated by these people? "Xiaowa!" Lin Jin shouted, and a shadow immediately darted out from the back hall. No one could see what was going on, but a ferocious and intimidating fire wolf stood before them. Those people immediately took a step back in fright. "Since you're here, you must abide by my rules. Let me make this clear. Treating a pet beast isn't a 100% success rate. If you're not willing to be treated, take your pet beasts away immediately. If you're willing to stay, keep your mouth shut. If you spout any more nonsense, I'll throw all of you out." Lin Jin swept his gaze across them, his aura imposing. None of them dared to meet Lin Jin's gaze. Lin Jin didn't move either. He simply stared at them. Seeing that the iron shell crab was on the verge of death, the leader finally snapped out of his daze and quickly apologized. "Appraiser Lin, we're uncultured people. We were rude before and spoke without thinking. Please don't take it to heart. Please be a benevolent doctor and save my pet beast." The others quickly bowed as well. The young apprentice's eyes immediately lit up. At this moment, she was clearly impressed by Lin Jin's might. The sight of his imposing figure actually made her heart race. Seeing that these people had behaved themselves, Lin Jin lowered his head and reached out to touch the iron shell crab. Those people were puzzled, but they didn't dare to say anything. They could only watch obediently. "Go and find some firewood and a large pot," Lin Jin ordered. The group was confused, but due to Lin Jin's earlier display of might, no one asked any questions. With their doubts in mind, they went to look for the items. Firewood was easy to find, but a large pot wasn't. In the end, they had to borrow the largest pot in the association's kitchen. Lin Jin nodded in satisfaction at the sight. Then, he got the group's help. They started the fire, poured water, closed the steamer, and placed the iron shell crab inside. The helpers immediately sensed something amiss. Why did it feel like they were going to steam the crab? What's the meaning of this? I don't know. We didn't dare to ask either. This appraiser Lin is pretty fierce, and his pet beast is even scarier. I'm afraid he'll be upset if we ask. Forget these people. Even the apprentices like Zhao Ying, Lu Xiaoyan, and Han Dong were confused. Being a straightforward person, Lu Xiaoyan couldn't help but whisper, "Should we get some seasonings? Ginger, scallions, or something?" At this, the group panicked even more. Lin Jin knew this could easily lead to misunderstandings. Since he had done what he could, he simply explained, "This iron shell crab must have accidentally eaten something extremely cold. Crabs have a water attribute to begin with, so they aren't afraid of such things, but if they eat too much of it, they will be harmed. This isn't a big problem. The cold can be dispelled with fire or some medicine that melts in energy, but the effect will be slower. However, the iron shell crab has an Een attribute to begin with. Whether it's dispelling fire or using medicine that melts in energy, it's a different kind of harm. Hence, while dispelling the cold, the iron shell crab can't be harmed. Hence, this is the only way. The steam from a steamer, mixed with fire and water attributes, happens to be able to restrain the cold in the iron shell crab's body." This theory sounded unimaginable at first. However, if one were to think about it carefully, they would realize that it contained an extremely profound principle. Zhao Yu and Lu Xiaoyan were the first to react. Brilliant! It's no wonder no one else can cure this disease. That's because no matter what method is used, as long as the cold is dispelled, the pet beast's innate attribute will be harmed. Even if it's cured, it would be crippled. Using the steam from the steamer, which carries a fire attribute but is suppressed by water, is the most suitable method to dispel the cold in the iron shell crab's body. The best part is that this method won't harm the iron shell crab's innate attribute. It's truly amazing. The two girls looked at Lin Jin with admiration. Han Dong was also an apprentice beast appraiser, so it didn't take him long to figure out the theory behind it. He was equally astounded by it. There's actually such a method? Han Dong was a hard-working man who studied beast appraising, so he knew many books by heart. One thing Han Dong was sure of was that Lin Jin's treatment method had never been mentioned in the books. It was a brand new case study. I have to remember this. Han Dong's fat jiggled in excitement. Although the iron shell crab's owner and his companions didn't understand the profound theory behind it, they understood what Lin Jin was saying. This method could cure their iron shell crab. As long as it could be cured, that was fine. Chapter 53. The water in the pot was boiling and steam was coming out. With the lid on, the others had no idea what was going on inside. Only Lin Jin was confident. Since the Museum of Deadly Beasts listed this treatment method, it must be effective. Hence, Lin Jin remained nonchalant, not worried at all. Han Dong, who was watching from the side, made a mental note of it. About 10 minutes later, the lid popped open with a loud bang. The frigid air on the iron crab's body was removed, and it leaped out of the pot. The iron crab was currently steaming and full of vigor. Even an idiot would know that the treatment was effective. Lin Jin waved his hand and said to the apprentices, "You guys can handle the rest. Prescribe some medicine to regulate the crab's attributes, and it'll be fine." Also, this iron crab has benefited from this disaster. 90% of the frigid air in its body has been removed, and the remaining 10% is no longer harmful to it. Instead, it will improve its strength. Who knows, it might even be able to use this energy to evolve in the near future. The apprentices quickly expressed their gratitude at this. This time they were truly convinced. They had no choice but to accept it because the truth was right before their eyes. After all, they had consulted several so-called first and second-ranked apprentices, but none of them could do anything. That apprentice named Zhang, he even said that even an official beast appraiser wouldn't be able to do anything in such a situation. In other words, it was hopeless. Who would have thought that appraiser Lin, who had a terrible reputation, would cure it so quickly? Who said that appraiser Lin was incompetent? Who said that he didn't live up to his reputation? The apprentices thanked Lin Jin profusely before taking their leave. Appraiser Lin is a man of miraculous skills and noble character. To think that there would be such slander against him, the owner of the Iron Crab said angrily. As shipwrights, they were short-tempered, straightforward, and loyal. They felt like they owed Lin Jin a favor this time. Why don't we send him a plaque tomorrow? Don't all the other beast appraisers' consultation halls have plaques hanging on the wall, saying things like superb appraisal skills or benevolent medical skills? Appraiser Lin is so skilled, but there's not a single plaque in his hall. That's a good idea. I think it'll work. The shipwrights left with the Iron Crab. There was a fat man in front of them, and he was listening to their conversation. This fatty was Dong He. From tomorrow onwards, he would officially open his shop and start helping people to appraise and treat beasts. He had seen these shipwrights before. Previously, he had gone to Jia Qian and Zhang He's place. They seemed to have registered for emergency treatment, but they probably could not be cured. Situations like this were a daily occurrence in the association. There would always be pet beasts suffering from incurable diseases, so the association was used to it. But just now, Dong He had clearly seen that half-dead iron shell crab run out on its own. Those legs and that speed, how did it look like it was about to die? Dong He was puzzled at first, but after hearing their conversation, he immediately understood what was going on. It was that Lin Jin who cured her? How is this possible? Dong He was shocked. He knew that although Lin Jin was an official beast appraiser, his skills had always been mediocre. This was a well-known fact. But on second thought, the rumor of Lin Jin's incompetence originated from Zhang He. That Zhang He had betrayed Lin Jin and switched allegiances. Could he have said that on purpose to defame Lin Jin? That was a possibility, but that didn't make sense either. Dong He remembered clearly that Lin Jin's scores couldn't even compare to a few apprentices in the past few months. He was barely in the middle of the group. If Lin Jin was an apprentice, it wouldn't be a big deal. But as an official beast appraiser, Lin Jin's ranking was too low. If Lin Jin was truly talented, how could he be so lousy? Dong He couldn't figure it out. He hurriedly ran back and told his sister, Dong Ke, about the situation. Coincidentally, Han Dong had also sneaked back to report what had happened today. Han Dong's understanding was clearly more detailed. He included information about Lin Jin and his two apprentices' pet beasts, the contents of Lin Jin's evaluation reports, and the emergency treatment they encountered today. Han Dong even went into great detail about the process. When they weren't paying attention, I secretly made a copy of Lin Jin's evaluation report. Han Dong took out a piece of paper. Dong Ke and Dong He watched it together. Dong Ke was also an apprentice, but she preferred to keep a low profile. When she saw Lin Jin's evaluation report, her eyelids twitched while Dong He gaped at it. This has some standards. Dong He mumbled to himself. Dong Ke shook her head. It's more than just some standards. Despite her calm demeanor, she was inwardly shocked. This evaluation report was for an average rank 1 pet beast. It wasn't a difficult task, and even an average apprentice beast appraiser could handle it. However, even though it was a simple task, the evaluation reports written by an expert and an average person were simply different. It was just like when a painter painted from nature. The same landscape could be painted by different people, and the final result would be different. Could the work of a master painter be compared to the work of an ordinary painter? Discerning people could tell the difference between good and bad with just one glance. The difference in value was like heaven and earth. In a sense, it was the same for beast evaluation reports. The same pet beast will be evaluated by different beast appraisers, resulting in vastly different results. Lin Jin's evaluation report was extremely detailed. It included the pet beast species, bloodline, attributes, and even the pet beast condition, hidden ailments, and even the treatment method. Everything was written in great detail. It was well-grounded and well-organized. It was a superb work. This Lin Jin doesn't seem to be as bad as Zhang he made him out to be. But his monthly evaluation scores are really bad, and he even had an appraisal accident. Dong He was still in disbelief. His sister, Dong Ke, was much more thorough in her considerations. The monthly evaluation might seem fair, but in reality, it's not impossible to falsify it. As for the appraisal accident, we'll need to analyze it in detail. After all, some pet beasts are extremely difficult to appraise. Even Wang Ji and Gao Jiang can't always get right. Dong He's heart skipped a beat. He quickly whispered, "Sister, you mean?" Dong Ke took a deep breath. Now it seems that Lin Jin isn't as useless as the rumors say. At the very least, he does have the ability of an official beast appraiser. Then what should we do? What if he doesn't get kicked out? I can't take over either. Dong He panicked. Sometimes things were like this. If there was no hope, one wouldn't think about it. But now that there was a glimmer of hope, it would be even more difficult to give up. Moreover, Dong He had already given up his position as the logistics department's manager. He would be taking over tomorrow, so he wouldn't be able to kick Lin Jin out now. Dong Ke chuckled. Silly brother, what are you afraid of? It's not like Lin Jin's skills suddenly improved over the past few days. He was suppressed so badly in the past, so he won't be able to make a comeback in the future. He can only blame his bad luck. Not only did he have a low evaluation score, but he also had an accident. Not to mention that old fox Wang Ji is still around, so you don't have to worry about him. That's good. Anyway, I don't like that Lin Jin. Once he leaves, I'll definitely get someone to teach him a lesson, Dong He said with a menacing expression. Regarding Lin Jin, keep it a secret. At the very least, don't help him spread the news. We don't have to deal with him. Wang Ji will help us, Dong Ke said confidently. Chapter 54. The renovations to his house had yet to be completed, so Lin Jin spent the night in the association's consultation hall, as usual. Xiao Hua and the sapphire turtle were there, and he even brought Goldie along when he went back. With him around, it was quite a lively place. The next day, Lin Jin sat in the consultation hall, as usual. Han Dong arrived even earlier than Zhao Ying and Lu Xiaoyan. He started cleaning the place diligently. At first, Lin Jin thought it would be hard to get his number token today. But in fact, it was early in the morning and no one had come to register for his number token. Even if there were people who came yesterday, they were only a small minority. Most people's impression of Lin Jin was still that rumored unreliable beast appraiser. There's no rush. Gold will shine sooner or later, Lin Jin said nonchalantly, unhurried. He was quite satisfied with his current situation. This was much better than before. Back then, he was a one-man army. But now, he had 3 apprentices affiliated with him to learn from. Right, since I have time now, let me share some of my beast appraising experiences with you guys. Lin Jin figured that since Han Dong was affiliated with him, he might as well teach them the basics of beast appraising. Since they were readily available in the museum, he could just pick any one of them, and it would be enough to benefit the 3 of them immensely. Let's talk then. Having attended Lin Jin's lectures before, Zhao Ying and Lu Xiaoyan quickly sat down in anticipation. Han Dong, on the other hand, didn't have much anticipation. It wasn't that he didn't think Lin Jin was skilled enough. Based on his observation yesterday, he knew that Lin Jin was highly skilled and had impressive standards. However, it wasn't as if he had never experienced teaching before. When he first arrived, he studied under Gao Jiang. However, there were too many apprentices under Gao Jiang. At its peak, there were more than 30 of them. It was obvious that these 30 apprentices couldn't all be his assistants. Although Han Dong only studied under Gao Jiang, he only had the chance to listen to Gao Zhang's lecture 2 months later. He was extremely excited back then. This was because appraiser Gao Jiang was a renowned certified beast appraiser. When Han Dong first arrived, he was filled with admiration. Before the class started, he was so excited that he couldn't even sleep. He even prepared a brush and paper, intending to study in earnest. It was a public lecture, and there were 10 other apprentices listening to the lecture. However, when appraiser Gao Jiang arrived and began his lecture, it was as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over Han Dong's head. The so-called lectures, in reality, would not teach anything truly useful. It was also from that moment onward that Han Dong realized the principle of teaching a disciple to starve to death. Come to think of it, how could appraiser Gao Jiang possibly impart valuable knowledge and experience to others? Even if he wanted to teach, he would only teach a small number of trusted aides. Even if he was a trusted aide, he would definitely hold back a lot. This was inevitable. After all, beast appraisers had to spend a long time exploring and summarizing their experiences. They wouldn't teach others so easily. Han Dong understood this as well. Hence, he knew very well that affiliated beast appraisers wouldn't usually teach any useful knowledge. At best, they would only teach some basic knowledge that was useless and a waste of time. It was precisely because of this that Han Dong felt disinterested. However, he dared not say this out loud. If appraiser Lin wanted to conduct a lecture, he couldn't just refuse to listen. He could only follow Zhao Ying and Lu Xiaoyan to see what Lin Jin had to say. Today, we'll be talking about a profound technique in beast identification, the 5 elements beast identification technique, Lin Jin suddenly said. This technique was specifically explained in the Museum of Deadly Beasts. The main point was that one didn't need to activate their spiritual eye or use a beast amulet. All they needed were some basic techniques to appraise a beast. Strictly speaking, this was something that couldn't be learned anywhere else. It was a profound technique that beast appraisers had concluded themselves. However, there were too many similar techniques in the Museum of Deadly Beasts. Truth be told, Lin Jin had seen and studied them before, but he couldn't use them on a daily basis. The reason was simple. Any pet beast would automatically be appraised the moment he touched it, and it would be recorded into the museum. Hence, no matter how profound the appraisal technique was, it couldn't compare to this. However, no one else had the Museum of Deadly Beasts. Hence, any one of these techniques was a priceless treasure. Lin Jin didn't keep anything to himself. Of course, he only chose to teach them one of the more common and low-end appraisal techniques. After all, there were some high-end techniques that he hadn't even studied yet. Zhao Ying and Lu Xiaoyan immediately listened with rapt attention. They had attended Lin Jin's lectures before, so they knew what he was talking about was the real deal. It was all real knowledge without a single bit of fluff. Hence, they had to listen carefully or they might miss out on some important points. Han Dong didn't mind at first, but soon he was dumbfounded. That's not right. I'm not talking about those useless things. Being able to become an apprentice proved that Han Dong wasn't a mediocre person. He could still tell the difference between good and bad knowledge. This time, Lin Jin didn't even bother with nonsense. He went straight to the real knowledge, and they were all extremely important. It was obvious that Lin Jin was speaking from his own experience. Han Dong was dumbfounded. His reaction was quick. He immediately flipped open his notebook and began recording. Only an idiot wouldn't listen and learn. Although Han Dong was a spy sent to spy on Lin Jin, he wouldn't let go of an opportunity to learn like this. Listening to Lin Jin's lecture made him feel hungry and thirsty, like a drought meeting sweet dew, or like a hoodlum entering a brothel. He was so immersed in it that he lost track of time. Lin Jin lectured for more than an hour without taking a break. His mouth was dry from all the talking. Let's call it a day here. Lin Jin planned to take a break, while the other three looked like they wanted to continue, especially Han Dong. As he read the information recorded in his notebook, he trembled in excitement. At the same time, he felt extremely dejected. He was dejected because he didn't pay attention at first and missed out on many important points. If he was given another chance, he would definitely pay attention. After listening carefully, Han Dong was truly shocked. Why wasn't this appraiser Lin playing by the book? Everyone in the association knew that when official beast appraisers gave lectures, they would only talk about the basics, and rarely would they talk about anything useful. Even if they did, they would only talk about one or two important points. If you wanted to listen to all of them, it would take at least half a year to even think about it. On the other hand, appraiser Lin had imparted the entirety of knowledge to them in this lecture. Furthermore, while the content was profound, it was grounded in theory. It wasn't just an illusion, but rather, it was backed up with solid evidence that could withstand scrutiny and research. This is true experience. This is true skill. When Han Dong realized this, he felt as though his heart had been overturned. All sorts of feelings were running through him. Then, he turned to appraiser Lin and waved his sleeve. If there's anything you don't understand, feel free to ask me. Han Dong immediately felt ashamed. What did it mean to be virtuous? What did it mean to be a teacher? Compared to appraiser Lin, what were Wang Ji and Gao Jiang? What did they teach? Even if appraiser Lin's skills weren't that great, at least he wasn't fooling them with his lectures. He was serious and taught as much as he could. And what about Han Dong? At that moment, Han Dong even had the urge to come clean and tell appraiser Lin that he was a spy. It seemed like this was the only way to make him feel better. However, at this moment, there was a commotion outside. Very soon, a few people carried a signboard and came in. Chapter 55. Appraiser Lin, we're here to thank you. If it weren't for appraiser Lin, my pet beast would have died yesterday. Appraiser Lin is skilled and benevolent. You're a model beast appraiser. To express our gratitude, we've specially made a plaque for appraiser Lin. It was the owner of the Iron Crab and a group of boatmen who arrived yesterday. These people were straightforward. Since they decided to give Lin Jin a plaque yesterday, they had it prepared and delivered early in the morning. Lin Jin was delighted to see this and personally welcomed them. After all, this was the first time someone had delivered a plaque to him. Appraiser Lin, we're uneducated, so we can only give you this plaque to express our gratitude. Please accept it no matter what, one of the boatmen said. Lin Jin accepted the plaque without hesitation. Others might have pretended to reject the gift, but Lin Jin had no such intentions. Since they had come with good intentions, why should he pretend to reject them? Not only would he not reject them, but Lin Jin had made up his mind to accept any plaques like this one from now on. The 4 words on the plaque read, Model Beast Appraiser. These 4 words were a little too big for most people to accept. After all, even Wang Ji wouldn't dare to claim that he was a model beast appraiser. This title was too big for most people to bear. However, Lin Jin didn't feel bad about it. He happily accepted it and immediately had someone hanging on the wall behind his desk. With that, he could sit there with a plaque that read, "Exemplary Beast Appraiser" behind him. It was majestic and domineering. Perhaps it was out of joy, Lin Jin checked on the iron crab's condition again. He even gave them some pointers and told them that if the iron crab showed signs of evolution, they should bring it to Lin Jin to have a look. If there were signs of evolution, Lin Jin would be able to help the iron crab evolve successfully. This undoubtedly excited the boatmen. Commoners like them had no chance of evolving their pet beasts into rank 2. Firstly, they couldn't find a pet beast with potential. Secondly, they didn't have the resources to strengthen their pet beasts with spirit stones and various pills. Lin Jin had the Museum of Deadly Beasts, so he could use the most effective method to evolve his pet beast. Back then, Xiaohua's evolution cost him more than 200 taels just to refine the 6-sun bee soul pill. And that didn't even include the fire spirit crystal and the fire attribute rank 1 excellent bee soul. Including these two items, even 1,000 taels of silver might not be enough. How could commoners like them afford it? Hence, Lin Jin's promise made the shipwrights extremely grateful. Making a plaque didn't cost much, but befriending a beast appraiser was the most important thing. Now, Lin Jin needed something practical to change the unfavorable rumors about him. This plaque was the perfect symbol. It also symbolized that he had officially sounded the rallying call for his counterattack. The commotion here was not small, so it naturally attracted a lot of people's attention. And now, the discussions outside had slowly changed over the past few days. At least, some voices had begun to question the slandering and derogatory comments about Lin Jin. Everyone says that this appraiser Lin is incompetent. But if he was, why would people praise him with a plaque? That's right. But Lin Jin might just be a self-directed act to brag about himself. Perhaps. Fortunately, Lin Jin's number is easier to get in touch with. Chief Wang and Appraiser Gao's numbers have been sold out for a long time now. Sometimes they even have to spend a large sum of money to buy it from Scalper. Why not give Appraiser Lin's number a try? You have a point. With that, quite a number of people rushed to Lin Jin's number. And so, Lin Jin suddenly became very busy. Wang Ji arrived at the association a little late today because he had drunk too much last night at the City Lord Manor's banquet. He had gained a lot from last night's banquet. Due to the excellent evaluation of the mutant eggs, not only did he earn the City Lord's praise, but he also managed to form a relationship with a rank 3 beast appraiser hired by the City Lord. That rank 3 beast appraiser from headquarters was no ordinary person. In Jade Dragon Kingdom's Beast Appraisal Association, he was a highly respected individual. Many of the certified beast appraisers in the association were his students, and he had students all over the world. In the past, Wang Ji would never have had the chance to befriend this beast appraiser. But at last night's banquet, the rank 3 beast appraiser took the initiative to speak to him and even encouraged him. This made Wang Ji feel like he had just eaten honey. His entire body was filled with comfort and motivation. The rank 3 beast appraiser even said that he would be staying in Maple City for a few days and that he would definitely come to Maple City's Beast Appraisal Association for guidance. If that was the case, it would undoubtedly give Wang Ji a lot of leverage to climb up the ranks. Upon arriving at the Beast Appraisal Association, Wang Ji put his hands behind his back and patrolled the premises as usual. But when he approached Lin Jin's consultation hall, he frowned. The place, which was usually deserted, was now packed with people. Wang Ji frowned at once. He stopped an apprentice and asked, "What's going on here?" When the apprentice saw that it was the chief, he quickly answered respectfully, "These people are all here for Appraiser Lin's appraisal and treatment. For him to appraise their beasts?" Wang Ji looked incredulous. He knew Lin Jin's situation better than anyone else. It could be said that he was standing on the edge of a cliff, and when the wind blew, he would fall. A few days ago, he had purposely arranged for Lin Jin to go to Everlasting Town for a beast appraisal in order to set up a trap for Lin Jin. But to his surprise, Lin Jin somehow managed to get the job done. The General Affairs Department had already reviewed the evaluation records Lin Jin had submitted and couldn't find any flaws. Still, Wang Ji refused to give up, so he sent his trusted aide to Everlasting Town to investigate and see if they could find any loopholes in Lin Jin's work. As chief of Maple City's Beast Appraisal Association, even Wang Ji couldn't do as he pleased. After all, there were still 3 elders assisting the association in its internal affairs. Sometimes, the elders' reach could stretch far beyond their reach. However, it wasn't a big problem for him to target Lin Jin. The association's higher-ups wouldn't bother with such matters, and some would even support him. He tried his best to give Lin Jin a low score in the monthly evaluation. Lin Jin didn't seem to be making any progress either, resulting in a serious appraisal accident. Headquarters had already sent an inspector to verify the matter. If it was verified, Lin Jin's qualifications as an official beast appraiser would be revoked on the spot. When that happened, Wang Ji would have no choice but to kick him out. At a time like this, Wang Ji obviously didn't want any more trouble to crop up. He walked over and peeked through the crack in the door. Inside, Lin Jin was treating a pet beast with a serious expression. And on the wall of this hall, there was a brand new plaque. Exemplary Beast Appraiser. Wang Ji was infuriated at the sight of it. This Lin Jin is too arrogant. How dare he accept a plaque like this? Is he even worthy of being a model beast appraiser? Even Wang Ji didn't dare to hang such an exaggerated and pretentious plaque. Who was Lin Jin? If Lin Jin was a model beast appraiser, then what was Wang Ji? Chapter 56. Wang Ji was a sly old fox with deep foresight. He didn't flare up immediately, nor did he barge in to reprimand Lin Jin. Instead, he retreated. This Lin Jin is really asking for it. He just had such a serious evaluation accident, and yet he still dares to sit in the hall and evaluate beasts. He even hung up the title of Exemplary Beast Appraiser. Even I wouldn't dare to wear this title on my head. He's just making a fool out of himself. Fine, if you want to die, I won't stop you. Wang Ji mumbled to himself with a dark expression. Then he glanced at the secluded consultation hall before storming back to his own consultation hall. Get the General Affairs Department's manager here, Wang Ji ordered. While waiting, Wang Ji couldn't help but think of the evaluation reports he burned yesterday morning. Truth be told, Wang Ji was shocked back then. To him, Lin Jin was incompetent and useless. But those mutant eggs evaluation reports were like a resounding slap to his face. He had to admit that he couldn't produce those evaluation reports. His standards weren't up to par. But Lin Jin shouldn't have been able to produce such evaluation reports either. Wang Ji gave it some thought and concluded that the only possibility was that Lin Jin had seen similar cases before. Lin Jin could only produce evaluation reports for mutant eggs if he had seen them before. In other words, Lin Jin was plagiarizing. Of course, this Lin Jin was still a little too young. How dare he write such a conclusive conclusion for plagiarism? This was a taboo when writing evaluation reports. No one could be 100% sure that their evaluation results were correct. Hence, he had to be ambiguous and only say that it was a prediction. Moreover, he had to list out more possibilities so that there would be room for error in the future. When Wang Ji plagiarized, he did so in his own way. He merely borrowed the contents and theories of the other party's evaluation report. His conclusion was still ambiguous. In other words, Wang Ji didn't believe Lin Jin's evaluation reports. Even if the mutated eggs hatched, they wouldn't end up as what Lin Jin's evaluation reports had described. If it was the same, then Lin Jin was a god. However, Lin Jin wasn't completely useless. Take this time, for example. Despite being in such dire straits, he still managed to make some waves. He even managed to get people to sign up for him and send him a plaque. If you want to change public opinion, I won't give you the chance. Wang Ji was determined to ruin Lin Jin's reputation and kick him out of the association. The steward of the General Affairs Department, Zhou Xiao, had arrived. Wang Ji immediately said, "Steward Zhou, I called you here because I have something for you to do. Guild leader, please speak." Headquarters is conducting an investigation into Lin Jin's negligence of duty. During this period, it's no longer appropriate for him to continue holding his consultation hall. This is being irresponsible to others. Inform him in the name of the General Affairs Department that before the results of the investigation are out, his consultation hall is to be temporarily sealed. Wang Ji said it casually, but in Zhou Xiu's ears, it was filled with murderous intent. Zhou Xiu mused, is he trying to kill Lin Jin? Even though the investigation hasn't been conducted yet, to have his consultation hall sealed right now is the same as giving Lin Jin a death sentence. Needless to say, after this incident, Lin Jin would never be able to reopen his shop, much less conduct his consultation hall. Moreover, the appraisal incident was a fact, and Lin Jin would be held responsible for the results of the inspection. If Lin Jin performed well during this period of time and received praise from customers, he might still have a chance at survival. The inspectors sent by headquarters might let him off the hook. But if his shop would be shut down, there would be no chance for him to make a comeback. Even Zhou Xiu, who had been making things difficult for Lin Jin, now felt that Chief Wang Ji had gone too far. Zhou Xiu's pet beast had a serious illness. Lin Jin had noticed it the last time. Although Zhou Xiu had humiliated him in public, he still told Lin Jin the cure. 5 grams of green dew grass, root leaves, and white peony, 10 grams of deer blood and ginseng moss, 3 grams of saltpeter powder, and the 6th chapter of Li's pelletization was used. After that, Zhou Xiu fed this medicine to his yellow dole, and it really did improve. Over the past 2 days, it had already recovered to about 80%. No matter how indignant he was, Zhou Xiu knew that Lin Jin had saved his pet beast. His initial hostility had mostly dissipated, and he no longer made things difficult for Lin Jin. But now, Chief Wang Ji had personally given the order, so he had no choice but to comply. After returning to the General Affairs office, Zhou Xiu pondered for a moment before arranging for someone to carry out the order. However, he had tampered with the timing. Based on the chief's intentions, the hall should be shut down immediately. However, he instructed his subordinates to wait until the afternoon break. At the same time, he sent someone to inform Lin Jin so that he could make some preparations. At the very least, he had to settle the matter at hand. Otherwise, having his hall shut down in front of everyone would be utterly humiliating. Lin Jin, consider this a favor returned, Zhou Xiu mumbled to himself after making the arrangements. The notice from the General Affairs Office arrived. Lin Jin picked it up and was stunned. Noticing that something was off, Zhao Ying and Lu Xiaoyan hurried over to ask about it. Lin Jin passed the notice to them before continuing to diagnose the remaining pet beasts. When Zhao Ying and Lu Xiaoyan saw the notice, they trembled in anger. Calm down. Don't let others see you as a joke. There's still a few registered customers. We'll talk about it after we've examined them. The General Affairs Office has also said that they'll only send someone over at noon. Lin Jin remained nonchalant. Although he was infuriated, he had to maintain his composure. Otherwise, wouldn't he just be making his enemies happy? Han Dong had something on his mind, so he hadn't spoken much since morning. He had been obediently assisting Lin Jin. Now that he noticed something amiss, he went over to ask about it. Lu Xiaoyan angrily handed him the notice. Look at it yourself. They're such bullies. I won't let them get away with this. Lu Xiaoyan was on the verge of tears, and so was Zhao Ying. When Han Dong read the notice, his heart skipped a beat, and he clenched his fists. Even he felt that this was going too far. If Appraiser Lin was truly hopeless and incompetent, it wouldn't have been a big deal. But the problem was, after interacting with him, Han Dong truly felt Appraiser Lin's selflessness. His integrity as a beast appraiser surpassed everyone else's. He witnessed with his own eyes that no matter what kind of customer or patient came, Appraiser Lin would treat them seriously without any hint of impatience. Every evaluation report was written in great detail. Appraiser Lin wouldn't treat patients simply because they had minor problems or were of low status. In terms of knowledge and skills, he wouldn't lose to the chief or Appraiser Gao. He kept a low profile, endured humiliation, and never fought for fame or fortune. To think that an honest man like him will be treated so unfairly. Who didn't know how humiliating it was to have one's consultation hall shut down? Even an apprentice who made a mistake shouldn't be treated this way. If Han Dong were in his shoes, no, anyone else would have exploded on the spot. At the very least, they wouldn't be as calm as he was now. But in order not to disturb the customers, appraiser Lin continued to carry out his duties as a beast appraiser. It was easy to tell who had a better character at a glance. In an instant, Han Dong felt even more ashamed and his eyes reddened. Chapter 57. When it was almost noon, Lin Jin finally sent off the last customer. In just one morning, he had appraised and treated more than 10 pet beasts. Other beast appraisers could achieve this speed too, but none of them could be as detailed as Lin Jin. Everyone who had registered with Lin Jin felt that it was worth it and was extremely satisfied. How could they not be? If it was the same problem, other beast appraisers or apprentices would have to make several trips here. They would also need to follow up and go through all sorts of tests. Almost none of them could solve the problem in one go. However, appraiser Lin was able to solve all of them in one go. Just the evaluation report alone was much thicker than the other appraiser's one-page evaluation report. It was written in such detail that anyone who could read would be able to understand it. Appraiser Lin, I'll go reason with them. Lu Xiaoyan couldn't hold it in any longer and was about to explode. Come back. Lin Jin called Lu Xiaoyan back. There's no point in you talking to them. You'll just end up giving them a reason to criticize you. If they want to remove my card, so be it. But Lin Jin waved his hand and said nothing more. Outside, Zhou Xiu had arrived with the people from the General Affairs Department. In fact, they had arrived long ago, but waited outside until the last customer had left before entering. Lu Xiaoyan was so angry that she was about to step forward while Zhao glared at her. Lin Jin, on the other hand, knew that Zhou Xiu had secretly helped him this time. Otherwise, if Zhou Xiu were to come and close the hall when it was the most crowded, Lin Jin would be utterly humiliated. Xiaoyan, don't be rude. Steward Zhou is just doing his job, Lin Jin said. He clearly knew that Zhou Xiu had no right to give the order to remove his card and close the hall. The mastermind behind this wasn't Zhou Xiu. The only one who could give this order and had the authority to do so was Chief Wang Ji. Zhou Xiu was a smart man. He knew that Lin Jin was indebted to him for his efforts in stalling for time, so he sighed and announced, "The association has decided that due to appraiser Lin's previous severe evaluation incident, from today onwards, his hall will be temporarily closed. We will wait for the final inspection results before making further arrangements." Removing Lin Jin's card meant removing it. Even if someone wanted to register with Lin Jin in the future, they wouldn't be able to do so. Sealing the consultation hall was even simpler. Lin Jin could simply seal the consultation hall so that Lin Jin couldn't enter again. To an appraiser, this was a huge humiliation. How could Lin Jin not be angry? How could he not be angry? But Lin Jin knew it was pointless. Shouting and throwing a tantrum would only embarrass him. A smart person's counterattack would always be to hit where it hurts and slash the throat with a sword. Before that, he could only endure. "We'll pack up and leave." "Thank you, Manager Zhou," Lin Jin said with a salute. Zhou Xiu's heart skipped a beat. In the face of such humiliation, Lin Jin remained calm and collected, accepting it calmly. His state of mind was nothing like that of a young man. Moreover, upon closer inspection, Lin Jin's eyes were bright and confident. He clearly had a backup plan. Zhou Xiu felt his scalp go numb. He mused, "I must have been blinded by lard. How did I fail to notice how extraordinary Lin Jin is?" This time, it seemed like Chief Wang Ji had the upper hand. Logically speaking, Lin Jin wouldn't have a chance to turn things around. But now, Zhou Xiu had a feeling that things might change. There wasn't much left in the consultation hall. They didn't have to bring their books, pet beasts, and some paper, pens, and clothes. Thus, they packed up quickly. In the process, Zhao Ying, Lu Xiaoyun, and even Han Dong's eyes were red as they remained silent. At this, Lin Jin chuckled. "It's just a temporary closure. It won't last forever. Since you're studying under my name, you should have some confidence in me. Come, I'm hungry. I'll treat you to a feast." Wang Ji had obviously sent someone to keep an eye on the situation here. I don't know what that Zhou Xiu is up to. Why did he give Lin Jin some time to prepare? He should have immediately closed his consultation hall in front of everyone this morning. But it doesn't matter now. The result will be the same. Lin Jin, oh Lin Jin, even if you want to turn things around, I won't give you the chance. Upon hearing that Lin Jin's hall had been shut down, the weight on Wang Ji's heart was finally lifted. With that, all they had to do was to wait for headquarters inspectors to arrive at Maple City and verify Lin Jin's appraisal mistake. Then, they could revoke his beast appraiser qualification. Just then, someone reported that Jia Qian was requesting an audience. A glint flashed across Wang Ji's eyes. Then, he sat up straight in his chair and had someone call her in. After a while, Jia Qian walked in. "Greetings, Chief." Jia Qian was still as flirtatious as ever. No man could resist her seductive charm. Wang Ji glanced at her lithe figure and silently cursed. What a vixen. Come to think of it, the reason he went after Lin Jin in the first place was because of Jia Qian. Back then, he wanted to get intimate with her and use this incident to make Jia Qian his personal plaything. But soon, Wang Ji realized that Jia Qian wasn't easy to deal with either. She would always be able to escape from his grasp. After such a long time, Wang Ji had yet to gain any advantage from her. Forget getting intimate with her. He couldn't even hold her hand. This was akin to having a dish that looked, smelled, and tasted great, but one could only look at it, but not eat it. Anyone would be frustrated by this. Wang Ji was infuriated. His patience with Jia Qian was wearing thin. Now, he was only dealing with Lin Jin because he wanted to establish his authority. Since he had given Lin Jin a low rating, Lin Jin had to go along with his evaluation. Otherwise, he would be the one to be scrutinized. Besides that, one of the association's elders, Nin Gongxian, had mentioned to him that if there was a chance, he could promote Dong He. Nan Gongxian's wife, Dong Ke, was Dong He's elder sister. One was an association elder with a powerful background, while the other was a female apprentice with a pretty face. Wang Ji didn't even have to ask how he would choose. Is something the matter? Wang Ji put on airs. This was a consultation hall. Although he and Jia Qian were the only ones here, they couldn't go overboard in case someone saw them. I heard that Lin Jin's consultation hall has been shut down, Jia Qian said. Wang Ji nodded. That's right. I was the one who gave the order. You should be happy. Jia Qian looked around before taking a step forward with a smile. A fragrant breeze immediately assaulted them. Chief, this Lin Jin is doomed. When can you nominate and recommend me? Her voice was seductive. Wang Ji chuckled. Come find me tonight and I'll let you know. His words were very direct. Having said that, he reached out to touch Jia Qian's waist. Jia Qian's expression changed slightly. She shifted her feet lightly and dodged his hand. She deliberately said in an annoyed tone, Chief, didn't we agree that as long as I can become an official beast appraiser, Chief will get what you want? Wang Ji frowned unhappily. It's like this every time. You want me to do something, but you won't even let me touch your hand. Now, I'm starting to wonder if you're just toying with me. Jia Qian quickly said, I wouldn't dare. I've already made a promise with you. As long as I can fulfill my wish, I won't go back on my word. But before that, please bear with me for now. Wang Ji was clearly losing his patience. This was the same excuse he used every single time. He decided to use force. After all, he was sure that even if he slept with Jia Qian, she wouldn't dare to say anything. However, someone knocked on the door, extinguishing the fire in Wang Ji's heart. Jia Qian took the opportunity to leave. Once she stepped out, her expression darkened. She took a few deep breaths to calm herself down before leaving. Chapter 58. Lin Jin led his 3 apprentices straight to Liao Gu's yard. Speaking of which, ever since he had Master Chef Liao's cooking, Lin Jin had become a picky eater. Whenever he tried someone else's cooking, he would always find it lacking, so he wanted to freeload another meal. Of course, Lin Jin didn't call it freeloading. That was a way of bonding. Didn't you see Zhao Ying and the others buying him gifts? After the incident at Symphony Restaurant, Liao Gu never went there again. Although the boss behind Symphony Restaurant paid him a visit later on, the old man was stubborn and refused to budge. Apparently, the boss of Symphony Restaurant was furious. Of course, he wasn't angry at Master Chef Liao. That incident was all Zhang Bailey's fault. No doubt, Zhang Bailey was taught a terrible lesson. Not only did he have to compensate a large sum of money, but he could also forget about establishing a foothold in the restaurant industry for the rest of his life. When Lin Jin arrived, Liao Gu was picking vegetables in the yard. Liao Gu was elated to see Lin Jin. He had been cooking all his life, so his temperament was as straightforward as the fire in the stove. If he liked someone, he would talk to them for 3 days and 3 nights. If he didn't like someone, he wouldn't even look them in the eye. Of the people Lin Jin brought here, Zhao Ying and Lu Xiaoyan had met Liao Gu before. Both of them behaved like ladies as they bowed politely. It was Han Dong's first time seeing the legendary master chef Liao, and he was so shocked that he was speechless. Appraiser Lin has treated me with sincerity, so how could I continue hiding things from him? Han Dong had been struggling internally along the way. Truth be told, he didn't feel pressured at first, but after witnessing Lin Jin's superb skills and admirable character, Han Dong was shaken. Especially since Lin Jin had taught him everything he knew without holding anything back. Lin Jin's teachings were as heavy as a mountain, so it would be strange if he didn't waver at all. Hence, he sought out Lin Jin alone and confessed everything. When everything was set out, Han Dong was completely relaxed. He also felt a sense of relief. To him, what happened next no longer mattered. Even if appraiser Lin scolded him and chased him away, he was willing to accept it. After all, he had to take responsibility for his mistakes. Lin Jin remained silent after hearing this. There was a period of silence. Han Dong lowered his head and said, "Appraiser Lin, scold me all you want. I know I'm in the wrong. When I get back, I'll look for Dong He and the others and tell them that I won't do this again. Then, I'll leave the Beast Appraisal Association on my own accord." After saying those words, he turned to leave. Lin Jin called him back. Ordinary people don't get to taste Chef God Liao's dishes. Now that you have the chance to taste it, you actually want to leave. Are you stupid? Lin Jin smiled and went over to pat Han Dong on the shoulder. Since you know you've made a mistake, just change it. How can a person not make mistakes in life? Han Dong's heart trembled when he heard that. At this moment, Lin Jin's figure loomed large in his eyes. Like a mentor, Lin Jin had pulled him out of the abyss of darkness and into the light. Most importantly, appraiser Lin had forgiven him. At this moment, Han Dong only wanted to cry. Inwardly, he made up his mind that he would no longer have anything to do with Dong He and Dong Quebec. Moreover, Han Dong was quite grateful to them. If they hadn't sent him here, he probably wouldn't have had the chance to learn from appraiser Lin. Lin Jin didn't tell anyone else about this. He didn't hold it against Han Dong because he didn't cause any serious consequences. Also, Han Dong took the initiative to confess. With this, Lin Jin could take in a capable subordinate, so why bother making things difficult for him? I was wondering how that dumb pig Dong, he could come up with this idea. So it turns out he has a smart sister who's also elder than Gongxin's wife. But so what? Lin Jin wasn't afraid of this at all. Despite being at his lowest point and having his consultation hall shut down by Wang Ji, he was no longer the Lin Jin of the past. With the Museum of Deadly Beasts, it was only a matter of time before he could make a comeback. Lin Jin couldn't be bothered to think too much about it now. All he wanted to do was to have a good meal. Moreover, the association's monthly assessment was in 2 days' time. Coincidentally, it was also the day of the Beast Appraiser's examination. This day was rather special. Apprentice Beast Appraisers could take the qualification exam for official Beast Appraisers on this day. Similarly, official Beast Appraisers could take the advancement exam on this day. Now that Lin Jin was a rank 1 Beast Appraiser, if he passed the advancement exam, he could become a rank 2 Beast Appraiser. This was Lin Jin's plan. In fact, whether or not his consultation hall was shut down, Lin Jin planned to take the advancement exam for rank 2. With the Museum of Deadly Beast blessing, why wouldn't he take it? Before that, it would be good to rest. Liao Gu lived up to his title as the god of cookery. He casually made a few dishes that looked delicious. During the meal, he chatted with Lin Jin. Zhao Ying and Lu Xiaoyan only cared about eating without lifting their heads. Just then, Lin Jin noticed a pile of rotten vegetables that had obviously been eaten by insects in the yard, so he asked about it. At this, Liao Gu was infuriated. It's all because of that despicable vegetable worm. I don't know where it's hiding, but it keeps harming my vegetables. I've been using spiritual spring water to nourish these vegetables, but it attracted the attention of that vegetable worm. I've been thinking of many ways to catch it these days, but none of them worked. This old man, Liao Gu, was quite an interesting man. He was actually angered by a vegetable worm. When Lin Jin heard this, he immediately realized that the vegetable worm Liao Gu was talking about wasn't an ordinary worm. Otherwise, how could it be so intelligent that no one could catch it? Out of curiosity, Lin Jin inquired further. Liao Gu described the vegetable worm as huge, as thick as a thumb. Its entire body was green with red patterns, and it had been wreaking havoc in the vegetable field. Liao Gu was infuriated that he couldn't catch it even after trying to catch it several times. I suspect that the vegetable worm is a rare species. Not only does it move strangely, but it's also extremely cunning. I've lost to it in several fights. But forget it, I'll be leaving Maple City in a few days. By then, that evil worm won't be able to harm me even if it wants to. I can't afford to provoke it, but can't I just avoid it? Liao Gu looked helpless. It was obvious that he didn't gain the upper hand in his battle with the vegetable worm. Depressed, he continued to narrate the evil worm's deeds. Lin Jin could only listen. Just then, Goldie, whom Lin Jin had carried over, walked past the dining table with his head held high. In Goldie's mouth was a fat vegetable worm. Lin Jin glanced at it. No matter how he looked at it, the fat worm in Goldie's mouth looked very similar to the vegetable worm Liao Gu was talking about. It was as thick as a thumb and was entirely green with red patterns. They really were the same. Lin Jin interrupted Liao Gu's complaints and pointed to Goldie beside him. Master Chef Liao, is this the evil worm you were talking about? Liao Gu was in the middle of his rambling when Lin Jin interrupted him. Liao Gu looked displeased, but when he turned to look, he was dumbfounded. Judging by Master Chef Liao's expression, there was no need to ask. Sensing Liao Gu's gaze, Goldie took a cautious step back. Perhaps afraid that Liao Gu would snatch the worm away from him, Goldie simply chewed and pecked the worm into pieces before devouring it. After he was done, he raised his head and proudly strode off to the vegetable field to bask in the sun. Chapter 59. Master Chef Liao's expression was fascinating. He was a little shocked, but at the same time, venting his anger. He seemed like he wanted to say something, but after some thought, he swallowed his words and changed it to a question. Lin Jin, where did this chicken of yours come from? Goldie was indeed a chicken with quite a personality. Back when he followed Lin Jin from Everlasting Town to Maple City, Lin Jin let him roam freely. He didn't care about him at all and let him roam around freely. After all, chickens were like dogs. Once they recognized a home, they wouldn't get lost. Based on his appearance, there was nothing special about Goldie. Lin Jin was the only one who could tell that Goldie's bloodline was extremely impressive. Golden Crow bloodline? Upon hearing Lin Jin's explanation, Master Chef Liao was shocked. Although he was a chef, he was knowledgeable, so he had heard of the legendary Golden Crow bloodline. It was the bloodline of the sunbird during the ancient era of immortals. In ancient times, the blazing sun in the sky was a manifestation of the Golden Crow. In some immortal scriptures, the Golden Crow was revered as the divine sunbird. From this, one could see how powerful the Golden Crow bloodline was. Liao Gu's gaze toward Lin Jin had changed. This kid just randomly brought a chicken over, and it actually had the Golden Crow bloodline. It was no wonder he could catch that vegetable worm. If he had known, he would have asked Lin Jin to bring it over earlier. Suddenly, Lin Jin remembered something. He walked over and looked at the spot where Goldie had pecked the vegetable worm to pieces. He reached out to wipe the remaining juice on the ground. In an instant, there was a commotion in the Museum of Deadly Beasts. Emerald bloodworm, rank 1, rare species, it was true. Lin Jin took a closer look at the emerald bloodworm and felt a tinge of regret. If he knew this worm was so rare, he would have snatched it from Goldie's mouth. The emerald bloodworm had a hidden bloodline that could melt gold and refine jade. It also had extraordinary potential. Most importantly, This worm was an extremely important medicinal ingredient that could only be found by chance. However, it was too late for regrets now. Since Goldie had already eaten it, there was no point in saying anything. Just then, Lin Jean turned to look at Goldie, who was sunbathing in the vegetable field, and immediately noticed something. Goldie's body seemed to be emitting heat, and it was getting stronger. Lin Jin's eyes lit up. Goldie was a rank 2 right from the start, and was an extremely powerful rare species. Lin Jean had never paid much attention to him, but now, Goldie was showing signs of evolution. Lin Jean immediately stepped forward. As he got closer, he could already feel a wave of heat assaulting him. Reaching out to touch Goldie, Lin Jean confirmed his speculation. Moreover, if one took a closer look, one of Big Yellow's advancement methods was to devour rare beasts of the same attribute, which had a certain chance of triggering an advancement. Of course, just having signs of evolution didn't necessarily mean that it would happen. But if Lin Jean could lend a hand now, the situation would be different. Without hesitation, Lin Jean immediately said, "Han Dong, Xiao Yun, help me buy some medicinal ingredients at once. Hurry." As he spoke, Lin Jean took out a pen and paper and quickly scribbled down a prescription. He then instructed the 2 servants to get the ingredients and return as soon as possible. "Master Chef Liao, hurry up and pour away all the water here. Don't leave a single drop of water in the tank. Zhao Ying, go help him." Lin Jean didn't have the time to explain. Goldie was definitely lucky to be showing signs of evolution, so Lin Jean had to grab hold of this opportunity. Otherwise, it wouldn't be so easy to evolve next time. Liao Gu could tell that the rooster was about to evolve, so he didn't hesitate and poured the water in the tank with Zhao Ying. "Xiaohua, keep an eye on Goldie. Don't let him drink any water and don't let him leave this yard," Lin Jean shouted at Xiaohua. Once a pet beast reached rank 3, not only would its strength increase exponentially, but it would also become telepathically connected to its owner. Xiaohua already knew what Lin Jean was thinking, so he immediately unleashed his might and went forward to guard Goldie. When Lin Jean looked at Goldie again, he noticed that his body was emitting heat. It was as if the lid of a steamer had been opened. It was obvious that Goldie had no idea what was going on. He was feeling a little dizzy, and the scorching heat from the inside out was making him feel uncomfortable, unbearably hot. The emerald bloodworm he had just eaten was now in full effect. The aura of extreme yang made Goldie feel as if his body was on fire. He wanted to drink water. He desperately wanted to drink water. He immediately flapped his wings in search of a water source. But just as he took a step forward, he was forced back by Xiaohua. Goldie was immediately displeased. The flames on his body surged, and his feathers stood on end. His comb was a fiery red as he flapped his wings furiously, looking ready to fight. Xiaohua wasn't doing this for nothing. Goldie was ferocious, but Xiaohua's pet beast was a rank higher than Goldie's. Now that his body had grown larger and his body was engulfed in flames, Xiaohua growled and bared his fangs to suppress Goldie. Now, the wolf and the chicken were facing off. Both of them were fire attribute pet beasts. As the blazing sun collided, the yard immediately became scorching hot. The vegetables in the vegetable field were the first to suffer, as they were instantly burned to death. The soil was scorched dry. Lin Jean and the others took a few steps back to avoid the scorching heat. As the heat on Goldie's body grew stronger, the thirstier he became. However, Xiaohua kept a close eye on him. No matter how Goldie tried to break free, Xiaohua would stop him. The 2 pet beasts confronted each other, neither willing to give in. Lin Jean was thankful that Xiaohua was a rank 3 pet beast, or he wouldn't be able to suppress Goldie. While Goldie was usually a loner like a rooster, when he was truly enraged, most rank 2 pet beasts were no match for him. If Lin Jean couldn't stop Goldie now and allowed him to drink the water, he could forget about his evolution. Goldie's appearance of evolution this time was a coincidence. It wasn't a perfect evolution, but it wasn't far from it. The main reason was because he had eaten the emerald bloodworm. Not only did the worm match his attributes, but more importantly, it could trigger the trace of Golden Crow's bloodline in Goldie's body. In other words, Goldie's evolution this time wasn't due to the emerald bloodworm, but the power of his bloodline. The Golden Crow's bloodline was so powerful that even a tiny bit of it was more than enough for Goldie to evolve. The most important thing was to trigger that tiny bit of bloodline power. This process would be excruciating for Goldie, but it couldn't be helped. If he wanted to evolve, he had to endure it. If he drank or touched water, all his efforts would go to waste. "Goldie, I'm doing this for your own good," Lin Jin said. By now, Goldie and Xiao Hua were fighting fiercely. Goldie's entire comb had turned into a ball of flame. His claws had enlarged and became razor-sharp, enveloped in heat. As he flapped his wings, a scorching wind could be vaguely felt. By the looks of it, once Goldie evolved to rank 3, a flap of his wings could stir up a fiery gust of wind. Time passed. Han Dong and Lu Xiaoyan returned with their medicinal ingredients. Without another word, Lin Jin took them into the house and started brewing the medicine. Time was of the essence. Goldie grew stronger as the battle progressed, while Xiao Hua still had the upper hand. However, the gap between them was slowly closing. After all, Goldie was only a rank 2 pet beast at the moment. Chapter 60. Soon, Lin Jin came out with a bowl of concoction. The concoction was thick and had a strong medicinal smell. Outside, Master Chef Liao's yard had been ravaged by the two beasts. However, Master Chef Liao didn't care as he focused on watching the two beasts fight. Not only him, but Zhao Ying, Lu Xiaoyun, and Han Dong were also dumbfounded. Their pet beasts were cowering obediently at the back, not daring to approach. To these pet beasts, these two in the yard were bosses they couldn't afford to offend. "It's about time." Lin Jin held the concoction while observing Goldie's condition. Then, he placed the bowl in front of him and called for Xiao Hua to return. Xiao Hua immediately jumped back. Goldie was visibly enraged as he flapped his wings, wanting to give chase. Seeing this, Lin Jin immediately cast a spell to unleash Xiao Hua's full strength. Only then did Xiao Hua unleash his rank 3 pet beast strength. His body expanded until he was one size larger than a bull. His fur melded with the flames as if they were part of his fur. Under the threat of a beast king, Goldie finally stopped his pursuit. Or perhaps he had noticed the concoction on the ground. Dying of thirst, Goldie immediately gulped down the concoction. To Goldie, as long as it was water, everything was fine. Soon, Goldie finished half of the concoction. This concoction was concocted according to the Museum of Deadly Beast prescription, so its effects were obvious. The effect was immediate. Goldie let out a strange cry as his body expanded and a lot of his fur fell off. He continued to squawk as his body continued to grow, leaving a pile of feathers on the ground. Goldie now looked like a chicken with its feathers plucked. His body continued to grow. Finally, when he was almost as tall as a human, Goldie's body stopped growing. At this moment, Goldie's aura was almost on par with Xiao Hua's. If it weren't for the fact that he was hairless, he might look even more intimidating. All of a sudden, a flame emerged from Big Yellow's body. Then a shocking scene appeared. Like a painter's brush, the flames began to draw the outline of feathers on Big Huang's body. Piece by piece, feather by feather. In just a short while, the originally bald Big Huang was covered in flaming feathers, and its comb was like a flame. With a long howl, everyone, including pet beasts, except for Xiao Hua and Lin Jin, took a step back. The pangolin and red fox even curled into a ball, shivering. Third order. Zhao Ying, Lu Xiaoyan, and Han Dong's eyes nearly popped out of their sockets. As apprentice beast appraisers, they had studied diligently for many years, but they had never witnessed a rank 2 to 3 evolution process with their own eyes. Today, they actually saw it. Isn't this just an ordinary rooster? When they first saw it, they didn't think that the rooster was anything special. Han Dong even thought that the rooster would be served on the table soon. How did he suddenly advance? Moreover, he was already at the 3rd order. They couldn't figure it out and were left in shock. Lin Jin was surprised as well. Goldie didn't have a blood contract and was an ownerless pet beast. Under such circumstances, evolution was even more difficult. But this time, Goldie only managed to awaken the Golden Crow's bloodline by chance by eating the emerald bloodworm. Lin Jin had also used the right method to guide and add fuel to the fire. At rank 3, not only could a pet beast change its body size, but it would also become more adept at using elemental powers. Its intelligence would also improve. Goldie had always been smarter than most pet beasts. After this evolution, he naturally knew who the biggest contributor was. He called out to Lin Jin and flapped his wings. The wind was oppressive. Then, he clawed at the ground with his claws. The stone slabs on the ground were cut open by his sharp claws, as if he had been slashed by a red-hot sword, leaving behind scorching marks. Then, he shrunk down to the size of an ordinary rooster and went back to basking in the sun as if what happened earlier had nothing to do with him. After a long while, Lu Xiaoyan said, "This rooster sure has a personality." It wasn't the first time Lin Jin found out about Goldie's personality. To him, Goldie's evolution was a good thing. Although Goldie wasn't his pet beast, the chicken liked him quite a bit and had been following him around all this while. Due to this sudden incident, Liao Gu's yard was completely destroyed. The master chef didn't complain at all. In his words, being able to witness such a rare sight with his own eyes was worth it. After the initial shock, Zhao Ying, Lu Xiaoyun, and Han Dong became even more respectful toward Lin Jin. Zhao Ying and Lu Xiaoyan had suspected that Lin Jin's pet beast, Xiaohua, had reached rank 3, but they never confirmed it. But this time it was confirmed. Xiaohua really was a rank 3 pet beast. And now it wasn't just Xiaohua. Even Lin Jin's rooster at home had reached rank 3. Looking at their own pet beasts, they could only feel the difference between them, especially Han Dong. Han Dong's pet beast was an armored boar. This type of pet beast was quite rare. It was a mutated species of wild boar. Due to the tough keratin on its back and legs, it looked like it was wearing a suit of armor, hence its name. His armored pig was only grade 1, so Han Dong had no idea how to advance it. He had been doing odd jobs in the logistics department, so he had a good relationship with Dong He. He once asked Dong He to ask Elder Nangong about it. It was said that Elder Nangong's beast appraising skills were above even Chief Wang Ji's. For this matter, Han Dong offered Dong He a lot of benefits. But after waiting for many days, he was told to change his pet beast. Even now, Han Dong could still remember the scene. Pet beasts like wild boars didn't have much potential to begin with. Although they had decent combat strength among rank 1 pet beasts and could even take on a lion or tiger in a frenzy, what was the use if they couldn't evolve? But Han Dong would never give up on his armored boar. Not ever. 1 year ago, his armored boar was bitten by a venomous snake in an attempt to save him. Due to this accident, it was severely injured. Although its life was saved in the end, the poison in its body wasn't completely purged. Not only was its internal organs damaged, but it also cut off the possibility of evolution. Han Dong was a man of average birth and aptitude. He was cautious and submissive to others. He had to struggle his way up to become an apprentice beast appraiser. He could bend his back for the sake of life and give up his dignity for the sake of his future, but he swore that he would never give up on his pet beast, even if he had to spend the rest of his life in mediocrity and never make a name for himself. Because if it weren't for the little pig, he would be dead by now. Dong He came to him because he thought Han Dong was easy to control. Little did he know, Han Dong wasn't the kind of person they thought he was. Zhao Ying and Lu Xiaoyan's pet beasts were now rank 2. When Han Dong found out about this, he felt a glimmer of hope. Even an idiot would know that Lin Jin was the reason why Zhao Ying and Lu Xiaoyan's pet beasts were able to evolve. Now that he witnessed the unbelievable sight of the rooster evolving, Han Dong couldn't hold it in anymore and kowtowed to Lin Jin. "Master Lin, Han Dong has a request." Chapter 61. Han Dong suddenly kneeling down and kowtowing truly gave everyone a fright. Zhao Ying and Lu Xiaoyan were still unaware of Han Dong's identity as a spy, so Lin Jin had no intention of telling them. They stepped forward and said, "Han Dong, if you have any trouble, just tell us. We're fellow students, so even if Master Lin can't help, We won't sit idly by. They clearly thought Han Dong was in trouble. But when Han Dong explained the reason, they finally realized what was going on. It was because of his pet beast. If it's about that, then there's even less to worry about. Master Lin might not be able to help with anything else, but as long as it's related to pet beasts, Master Lin will have a solution no matter what it is. The two ladies had seen Lin Jin's skills so many times in beast appraisal and treatment that they admired him even more. Lin Jin put on a straight face and said, "How many times have I told you? Don't be arrogant just because you have some tricks up your sleeves. Also, beast appraisal and treatment are never guaranteed." He looked like a teacher. However, Lin Jin added inwardly, "No one can appraise a beast with a 100% success rate, but I'm an exception." Indeed, with the Museum of Deadly Beasts, Lin Jin's success rate was 100%. Lin Jin glanced at Han Dong. Although this man was all smiles to everyone, he still had his own pride. The fact that he was willing to kneel for his pet beast showed how much he valued his relationships. "Get up, Han Dong. Remember, a man's knees are made of gold. Kneel to the heavens and kneel to your parents. Other than them, no one else is worth kneeling to." After lecturing the man, Lin Jin reached out to touch Han Dong's pet beast. Han Dong shuddered at this. Based on this statement alone, even if appraiser Lin couldn't save his pet beast, he would still pledge his undying loyalty to appraiser Lin, because no one had ever valued him so much, treating him as a person with dignity. Rank 1 pet beast, Herdenhorn boar. Earth attribute, poison state, damaged organs, residual poison blocking the veins. There are 10 ways to treat it, namely, there are 7 types of advancement methods, which are. While Lin Jin was checking the pet beast's attributes in the museum, Han Dong was feeling anxious. He remembered clearly that not even Elder Nin could do anything about his pet beast. He didn't dare to ask, so he could only stand aside and watch anxiously. He was afraid to hear the word powerless. After all, his pet beast had been injured for more than a year now. Even Master Lin was helpless against such an old ailment. While his thoughts were running wild, Lin Jin stood up and said, "And here I was wondering how big of a deal it would be. It's just some internal injuries, residual toxins, and blockages of arteries. It's simple." Han Dong could not react in time. Lin Jin activated the power of his blood contract and mobilized his spirit energy. He took out his needles and pierced them into a dozen acupoints on the boar's body. The angle and strength were perfect. Then, he pointed at the wild boar's abdomen. With a howl, the wild boar spat out a mouthful of black blood. Han Dong was startled, but the wild boar that had spat out black blood was clearly more spirited. "All right." Lin Jin retrieved the needles as if he had just done something insignificant. "Is that all?" Han Dong could tell that Lin Jin seemed to be saying that his pet beast's chronic illness had been resolved. "Han Dong, you're also an apprentice beast appraiser. Tell me, how can I verify the effectiveness of a treatment in a situation like this?" Lin Jin wanted to test the man. Han Dong pondered for a moment before answering with a serious expression. "Master Lin, my pet beast has accumulated toxins in its body and damaged its internal organs. The most troublesome part is the venomous arteries. To verify the effectiveness of the treatment, you just have to activate the energy explosion spell." Admittedly, Han Dong's basic skills were quite solid. There were some basic spells to control pet beasts, and energy explosion was one of them. It was a low-level version of Berserk, and even apprentice beast appraisers could master it. Energy explosion could activate spirit energy to connect the acupoints on the pet beast's body, increasing its strength and explosiveness. However, Han Dong's pet beast couldn't use energy explosion due to its chronic illness in the past. Now, to verify the effectiveness of the treatment, energy explosion was the best way to do it. Lin Jin nodded. "Let's give it a try." Excited, Han Dong immediately took out a beast talisman and activated energy explosion. The beast talisman burned and turned into spirit energy that was injected into the wild boar's body. Immediately, a powerful aura erupted from the beast's body, stirring up dust and flapping its clothes. "It's really healed." Han Dong was now absolutely certain that appraiser Lin had cured his pet beast's chronic illness that had been plaguing him for more than a year with just a wave of his hand. Han Dong had expected this outcome. Now, he was even more certain that he would follow appraiser Lin from now on. Even if he had to do anything, he would be willing. I wanted to help your pet beast evolve, but your pet beast has just recovered from its illness, and its veins aren't stable yet. Forcing it to evolve would bring more harm than good, so let's wait for a few more days. Having said that, Lin Jin glanced at the messy yard and said apologetically, "We're guests at Master Chef Liao's place, and it's not appropriate to leave this place in such a state. Come, help me clean this up." "All right, Master Lin, we'll do it. Take a break." Han Dong and the other two immediately got to work, full of vigor. Han Dong, in particular, was bursting with energy. He was overjoyed today. Not only was he not chased out by Master Lin after confessing, but Master Lin had also treated his pet beast with extraordinary means. He would never be able to repay Lin Jin's kindness in this lifetime. Han Dong made up his mind. From now on, no matter what Master Lin ordered, he would carry it out. After helping Master Chef Liao tidy up the yard, Lin Jin and the others took their leave. Lin Jin had Zhao Ying and the others return to the association while he brought Goldie, Sapphire Turtle, and his pet beast home. He had no choice. His consultation hall had been sealed, so even if he went back, he wouldn't have a place to stay, so he could only leave his pet beasts at home. Fortunately, his house had been renovated by several craftsmen, so it was almost done. When he returned, the roof would be sealed up, and after some tidying up, he would be able to move in. After paying the craftsman, Lin Jin finally had a place to stay. Goldie was now rank 3, but he was still arrogant. Lin Jin couldn't be bothered with him, as Goldie knew his limits and wouldn't cause any trouble. The Sapphire Turtle was placed in the yard, so Xiao could follow Lin Jin around. Although his consultation hall had been shut down, he still had to return to the association. After all, he was still a member. Moreover, Lin Jin planned to take the next Beast Appraiser Advancement exam, so he had to go back and register for it. Once he returned to the association, the people around him looked at him differently. The reason was simple. Getting his consultation hall shut down was too impactful for a Beast Appraiser. In Maple City's Beast Appraisal Association, there hadn't been a single case of this happening in the past few decades. Lin Jin was the first. Lin Jin couldn't be bothered with the finger-pointing and gossiping. Now that he was free and didn't have to sit in a consultation hall, he was free to go wherever he wanted as long as he stayed within the association. Lin Jin then led Xiao straight to the association's management office. If he wanted to register for the Beast Appraiser Advancement exam, he had to pass through this place. The association's management office was known as the management office, but in reality, it was only responsible for reviewing the applications for the Apprentice Advancement exam and the official Beast Appraiser Advancement exam. Hence, no one would usually come here. With fewer people, it was quiet and peaceful. Unlike the bustling association in front of him, the management office not far away was quiet and peaceful. A small wooden tower was planted with trees, and there were 3 houses in the forest, forming a square. The courtyard was paved with green bricks, and it was clean and spotless. In the middle was an incense burner. The incense burner was 10 feet tall, and its smoke was like a bamboo pole. The wind could not disperse it, and it rose straight into the sky. Chapter 62. There were 3 elders in Maple City's Beast Appraisal Association. One of them was Elder Mo, who guarded the entrance to the geocentric fire vein, and his pet beast was a rank 3 fire lizard. Another was Nin Gongxian, who oversaw the association. The last one was Elder Du. The management office was his territory. Just like Elder Mo, Elder Du kept a low profile and rarely showed his face. He spent most of his time in the management office. Just how low profile was this Elder Du? In all his years in the Beast Appraisal Association, Lin Jin had only met Elder Du once. One could only imagine how low a profile the man was. Currently, Elder Du was sitting in the main hall, organizing some documents. The hall was also spotless. Lin Jin noticed that in a corner, a monkey was holding a broom and a rag, diligently sweeping and wiping the floor. This monkey was Elder Du's pet beast. Appraiser Lin Jin greets Elder Du. Upon entering, Lin Jin bowed respectfully. Elder Du turned to glance at him and nodded slightly. Is something the matter? I want to sign up for the beast appraiser's examination, Lin Jin said. Elder Du was stunned. Advancement examination? Lin Jin nodded. Elder Du smiled. Outsider said that Elder Du was even more aloof than Elder Mo. To put it bluntly, he was unsociable. However, it was understandable. Elder Du was the oldest among the three elders. He had white hair and a white beard. Dressed in an elegant Taoist robe, he was tall and well-built. Even when he was bending his back, he was still much taller than the average person. Elder Du took out a piece of paper and handed it to Lin Jin. Fill up the form. The pen is over there. Take it yourself. Having said that, he continued organizing books. Lin Jin thanked him and went over to fill up the form. After he was done, Lin Jin returned it to Elder Du respectfully. Elder Du took it and placed it on the table beside him. Lin Jin noticed that there was an application form on the table, and Gao Zhang's name seemed to be written on it. Obviously, Gao Zhang planned to take the advancement examination too. Whether or not he could pass the examination was another matter. But he would always sign up for it. What if he passed? This was already a routine. Once he was done, Lin Jin planned to take his leave. It was then that Lin Jin realized that Xiaohua had somehow gotten into a fight with Elder Du's pet beast, the sweeping monkey. The two pet beasts glared at each other, refusing to give in to each other. It was as if they were staring at each other. The monkey sweeping the floor wasn't simple. At this moment, he was standing on both feet like a human. He glared at Xiaohua and let out a roar. The problem was that Xiaohua wasn't doing it for nothing. Do you think I'm afraid of you glaring at me? So he glared back. If you growl, I'll growl too. If you're angry, I'm also angry. Two invisible auras surged, collided, and continuously escalated. Elder Du clearly noticed this as well. He was stunned for a moment before his gaze landed on Xiaohua with a grave expression. Monkey gripped the broom in his hand and took a step forward. He was like a towering mountain with an imposing aura. Xiaohua stood in opposition and similarly took a step forward while baring his teeth. He was like a surging volcano that was on the verge of erupting, and it was extremely terrifying. The two beasts' noses were almost touching. If they went any further, they would definitely fight. Xiaohua, seeing that Elder Du had no intention of stopping them, Lin Jin had no choice but to speak up. He couldn't really let the two pet beasts fight, could he? Upon hearing Lin Jin's voice, Xiaohua immediately retracted his aura and retreated in a flash. However, his gaze remained fierce while the monkey looked as if he would beat Lin Jin to death if he kept staring. Lin Jin crouched down and patted Xiaohua on the head before getting up to bid farewell to Elder Du after Lin Jin left. Elder Du glanced at the monkey and said, "The side hall hasn't been cleaned yet." The aggressive monkey immediately became listless. Lowering his head, he carried the broom and a rag to the side hall. Elder Du walked over and picked up the registration form that Lin Jin had filled out earlier. He mumbled to himself, "Interesting. Is he a good-for-nothing or a genius? I can finally look forward to this exam. Wang Ji, as chief, I could turn a blind eye to some things you don't do well, but there are some things I can't pretend I didn't see. If a genius beast appraiser gets buried because of this, I won't forgive you." As he spoke, Elder Du's aura was terrifying. The quick-witted monkey quickly ran to the side hall and began cleaning diligently. After registering, Lin Jin didn't have much else to do. He went to the garden to take a stroll. It was quite relaxing. When Wang Ji heard about Lin Jin strolling around out of boredom, the chief was enraged. This Lin Jin, he's been delisted, but he's still so ignorant. As an official beast appraiser, it's not good for him to be wandering around like this. Inside a large hall, Gao Jiang and a few high-ranking apprentices were conducting a consultation on a unique pet beast case. The one who spoke earlier was Gao Jiang. Due to the previous incident, he was very displeased with Lin Jin. Dong He, who was officially in charge of the consultation, was also participating in the consultation due to his brother-in-law, Elder Nangong. An idea came to his mind, and he said, Appraiser Gao is right. Lin Jean is an official beast appraiser of the association, so we can't just leave him be. I heard that the emergency hall has been lacking manpower. Why don't we let appraiser Lin help out? At this, everyone's hearts skipped a beat. They mused, this fatty dong, he is truly ruthless. The association's emergency hall was the dirtiest, most tiring place in the association. Chapter 63. After receiving the transfer order, Lin Jean came immediately without any delay. He knew a thing or two about the emergency hall. The environment here was dirty and messy. Appraising and treating beasts could make people faint from exhaustion. They were often scolded and even beaten up. Wang Ji and the others had evil intentions in bringing him here. But Lin Jean didn't really care, as long as he could appraise beasts. Previously, he was bored out of his mind. Moreover, the Museum of Deadly Beasts had to keep recording the number of pet beasts in order to receive subsequent rewards. In the emergency hall, there was no lack of pet beasts. Looking at it this way, the emergency hall that everyone else avoided was like heaven to him. Since he had the Museum of Deadly Beasts, no matter what kind of beast or disease it was, he could find a cure in the museum. Appraiser Lin, our emergency hall doesn't have too many rules. Only those who are capable have the highest authority. Only those who are capable have the right to speak. Otherwise, you'll just be causing trouble. Even if you're an official beast appraiser, you still have to abide by the rules here, an experienced apprentice suddenly said. He wasn't purposely making things difficult for Lin Jean. Everyone in the emergency hall was in dire straits, so there was no need to make things difficult for Lin Jean. Moreover, things were too busy here, so they couldn't afford to be scheming against each other. Everyone was here to help each other, and if something went wrong, everyone would have to bear the consequences. Of course, in a situation like this, what they hated the most was someone dragging them down. To them, Lin Jean had obviously been tricked by Chief Wang Ji, so he was purposely left in the emergency hall. They weren't afraid that Lin Jean didn't know anything. After all, he was an official beast appraiser. A starving camel was still bigger than a horse. At the very least, he should be better than some apprentices, right? They were just afraid that Lin Jean wouldn't know his place and would randomly give pointers, put on airs, and cause trouble. Hence, they had to be straightforward. Lin Jean could hear it, but he didn't mind. Since I'm here, of course I have to abide by the rules here. You make the arrangements, Lin Jean said casually. Seeing that Lin Jean was so easy to talk to, the apprentice was relieved. However, he didn't dare to go overboard. After all, Lin Jean was an official beast appraiser, so he couldn't possibly do menial work. Hence, he pointed to a row of tables in front of him and said, "Appraiser Lin, sit over there. Just treat the injured pet beasts. If you're unsure, get someone else to help. If that doesn't work, our emergency hall won't be able to handle it. We can only transfer it to the official consultation hall and let them handle it." Lin Jean nodded and sat down obediently. If anything happens, I'll take responsibility. Finally, someone came over to help. Even if they didn't want to get involved in trouble, they had to do their duty since they were here. Moreover, Appraiser Lin had said that he would take responsibility if anything happened. "I know how to cast a hemostatic spell," a young apprentice with a pale face said. Lin Jean instructed him to cast the spell immediately. Together with his acupuncture skills, they helped the pet beast stop the bleeding. At the same time, someone brought over a small knife and hemostasis powder. Even so, the others had no idea how to treat the pet beast. Only Lin Jean managed to treat the wound in an orderly manner. It was as if he never hesitated. Every step and movement he made was firm and confident. In an instant, the emergency hall fell silent. As the saying went, the layman enjoys the show while the connoisseur recognizes the artistry. The apprentices here had been appraising veterinary beasts in the emergency hall all year round. Their knowledge aside, at least in terms of basic skills, they were better than many higher-ranked apprentices. Deep down, they even looked down on those people. But now, Lin Jin's series of operations left them dumbfounded and in awe. Whether it was the hemostatic technique, the stitching technique, or the silver needles, it was a textbook demonstration. Some of them cautiously approached to observe Lin Jin up close. There are also those who couldn't understand Lin Jin's acupuncture skills and wanted to find out more. But by then, Lin Jin had finished treating the wound and stitched it up. However, the swordtail mink still showed no signs of waking up. It remained motionless. His treatment method is indeed impeccable. He's even more efficient than our best experts here. But the problem is, how do you save it? This pet beast has lost a lot of blood and is on the verge of death. No matter how well you treat the wound, it's useless if it can't come back to life. Someone sighed inwardly. Truth be told, they were already convinced by Lin Jin's performance. As expected of an official beast appraiser, the rumors saying that he wasn't skilled were obviously bullsh*t. And yet, he still couldn't save the mink. This had nothing to do with his skills. The only explanation was that the pet beast's injury was too severe. Does anyone have a wind thunderstone? Lin Jin suddenly asked. The group was stunned. Does anyone have a wind thunderstone? Let me borrow it. I'll return it to you after I'm done. Lin Jin added. I have one, but it's just a small piece. A female apprentice walked over and took off an earring from her ear. On the earring pendant, there was a yellow crystal the size of a grain of rice. Lin Jin took it and examined it. Great, thank you. Having said that, he took out a needle and pierced it into the swordtail mink's heart. That's right. The museum had a new reward this time. This was because Lin Jin had saved more than 20 heavily injured pet beasts. Lin Jin had never counted the number of pet beasts he had saved. The reward was different from before. It wasn't the power to intimidate beasts, nor was it a cultivation technique for beasts. Instead, it was a set of spirit needle technique, pulse-seeking acupuncture technique. As a beast appraiser, the spirit needle technique might be used during pet beast appraisal and treatment. This was also a basic skill that was required to be learned in the beast appraiser school. Of course, the same skill required different mastery levels. In short, it was a skill that required a long period of practice. The pulse-seeking acupuncture technique, rewarded by the museum, was clearly more powerful than the average spirit needle technique. There was no comparison at all. Just by using needles to seal off a pet beast's attributes, it could even be used to stimulate the pet beast to achieve an effect similar to berserk. This was already impressive enough. More importantly, this technique could be used to defend against enemies. In other words, it could be used to fight. At this point, Lin Jin couldn't help but recall a well-known figure from his previous world. Invincible East. Lin Jin shuddered at the name, feeling an inexplicable chill between his legs. However, to be honest, this pulse-seeking acupuncture technique was truly amazing. Lin Jin was unwittingly engrossed in it. When outsiders saw him, they thought he was too tired from treating pet beasts, and no one dared to disturb him. Not far away, Zhao Ying, Lu Xiaoyun, and Han Dong, who had just received word that Lin Jin had been sent to the emergency hall, hurried over. They were infuriated. Killing someone was but a small matter. For an official beast appraiser, having his consultation hall shut down was a great humiliation. Now, he had to be sent to the emergency hall on the same day. No one would be able to tolerate this kind of precaution. However, appraiser Lin didn't argue, nor did he try to explain himself. He simply carried out his duty. Lu Xiaoyan had wanted to cause a scene and argue with Wang Ji, but was stopped by Zhao Ying and Han Dong. Zhao Ying and Han Dong were much calmer. After analyzing the situation, they concluded that it would be useless to cause a scene now. Instead, they would become a laughingstock. As appraiser Lin's apprentices, they couldn't afford to cause trouble now. Hence, the three of them agreed to come to the emergency hall to help out. When the emergency hall staff saw the three of them, they naturally wanted to question them. After learning that they were appraiser Lin's apprentices, they recounted the thrilling treatment earlier. Appraiser Lin's skills are superb, and he has a noble character. We're all convinced. Let's not disturb appraiser Lin. He's tired. Let him rest for a while. Chapter 65. The iron crab on the stretcher wasn't terminally ill as it could still move. This is Mr. Zhang from Maple City's Chamber of Commerce, the assistant introduced. Appraiser Dong, thank you for your trouble. The middle-aged man saluted. Dong he got up and said, Mr. Zhang, you don't have to be so polite. I'll do my best. Walking over to observe the iron crab, Dong he's heart skipped a beat. The iron crab exuded a chilling aura. Touching it with his hand, he could feel a layer of frost forming on its shell. This case was no trivial matter. At least, Dong he had never seen it before. The cases he had encountered in the past were all minor illnesses that were easier to treat. But this one was more difficult. However, it was obvious that this was a case of cold air invading the body. Usually, pouring cold medicine into the crab to slowly drive the cold away was considered a conservative treatment. However, Dong he was eager to make a contribution. After all, he was still inexperienced. If he wanted to make a name for himself in a short period of time, he had to do what others couldn't. Before this, he wouldn't have thought of any other treatment methods. But coincidentally, Han Dong had told him about Lin Jin's method of treating the same illness. Coincidentally, Lin Jin had also diagnosed an iron crab with cold air invading its body. Even the heavens are on my side. Han Dong tried his best to recall the contents of the evaluation report. Lin Jin's method was novel and effective. He used a steamer to steam the iron crab over a high heat, using the steam to drive away the cold. Moreover, the contents of the evaluation report were clear and logical. Something about the intersection of water and fire and the compatibility of attributes. There were some things that Dong he still couldn't figure out. But that wasn't important. What was important was that after careful observation, this iron crab's illness was exactly the same as the one Lin Jin had diagnosed. Since that was the case, why not use that shocking treatment method as well? With immediate results and some publicity, his reputation would surely soar. At this thought, the fat on Dong he's face jiggled. However, he wasn't a fool. He had to make sure that this iron crab wasn't incurable due to the cold air invading its body. Hence, after a round of diagnosis, he confirmed it. However, he didn't notice that there was a crystal-clear bead in the mouth of the iron shell crab. Just when he was fiddling with the iron shell crab and arranging for people to start a fire to steam it, the bead fell out of the mouth of the iron shell crab. Boss Zhang of the Chamber of Commerce was dumbfounded when he saw Dong he calling for a human fire pot. Appraiser Dong. Dong he was afraid that the other party wouldn't ask. If he did, he would be able to speak eloquently and reveal the theory that the other party had plagiarized. Boss Zhang, there's something you don't understand. Only then did Lin Jin say in a serious tone, Well, get her here. The black snake is considered a ferocious beast. Since it's getting dark, I'll take a look at her. Really? I'll get her here then. Zhao smiled and turned to leave. Lin Jin waited in the emergency hall. He thought it would take a while, but soon he heard footsteps coming from outside. She's here so soon? Lin Jin had planned to pee, but it seemed like he wouldn't make it in time. After tidying up his clothes, Lin Jin stood where he was. The footsteps approached, and a person entered. Lin Jin glanced at her and mused. This friend of Zhao Ying's is quite good-looking. She's just a little cold and doesn't seem like the shy type. Since that's the case, she could have just come. Why did she have to wait for Zhao Ying to pass the message? The woman who came in was well-dressed, and her hair accessories were well-groomed. She actually exuded a valiant aura. Zhao Ying was nowhere to be seen. She probably felt like she should have some privacy. Without thinking too much, Lin Jin said, It's okay, don't be shy. Let me take a look at you. The clinic takes your pulse, so let me do the same. He had the woman sit on a chair, while Lin Jin sat across from her. Regardless of whether there was something wrong with her body, Lin Jin had to touch her first. If she was related to a pet beast or a ferocious beast, the museum would definitely react once he touched her. If there wasn't, then she was just a nightmare. Lin Jin could just comfort her and sent her away. The woman was clearly stunned, but she didn't say anything. She simply placed her hand on the table, revealing her wrist. There was a hint of curiosity and playfulness in her eyes. Lin Jean glanced at it. Her wrist was fair and slender. Her body proportions were perfect. Without a second thought, Lin Jean touched it lightly with a single finger. In an instant, the Museum of Deadly Beasts stirred. There really is. Lin Jean wore a solemn expression. Looking at the results from the museum, Lin Jean saw a strange black fog in the shape of a beast. It's a bestial soul curse again, Lin Jean mumbled to himself.